Chapter 224. A cold shout came from nearby as a few youths from the Decimo's sword sect noticed him. The voice shook the entire place. More than 50 youths turned their heads and looked at Lu Ming. It's really Tianyan. There are so many of us here and he still dares to appear? Haha, he's courting death. Let's join forces and kill him. The disciples of the Decimo's sword sect looked at Lu Ming with murderous intent. Lu Ming scanned the area. He was well aware of the situation. There were more than 30 youths from the Decimo's sword sect here. There were also nearly 20 youths from the Star General Hall, including 3 of the top 10 Outer Hall experts. Tianyan, he's mine! A sinister voice came from the Decimo's sword sect. A young man in a blue robe strode out and looked at Lu Ming with a cold smile. Senior Brother Shui Hen! Is Senior Brother Shui Hen going to take action personally? Tianyan is dead meat. When the young man walked out, there were exclamations from the Decimo's sword sect. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He remembered that this young man was one of the 6 geniuses in the Decimo's sword sect who had comprehended force. Tianyan, you're really blinded by greed. How dare you appear here? You're really courting death. Fine, I'll finish you off and complete one of Elder Chio's tasks. Shui Hen looked at Lu Ming and said calmly. His tone was full of confidence, as if Lu Ming was already a piece of meat in his mouth. A few disciples of the Decimo's sword sect said the same thing to me before, but they're already on their way. Lu Ming smiled indifferently. What? Tianyan, you killed another disciple of the Decimo's sword sect? How dare you? Do you know that you're committing a heinous crime? A disciple of the Decimo's sword sect yelled. Ridiculous! Lu Ming merely uttered 2 words calmly. There were always some people who felt good about themselves, as if they were the only ones who could kill others. If others resisted, they would be committing a heinous crime. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with such people. Tianyan, no matter what? Now that you've met me, you're dead! Lu Shuihen's face turned gloomy as a powerful aura emanated from his body. Force, the force of water. Cut the crap. Like I said before, let's see who will kill who. Lu Ming pointed the spear in his hand, his killing intent bursting forth. At this moment, an even more intense fragrance wafted out. Everyone was shocked. The spirit flood dragon fruit was about to mature. Tianyan, I'll let you live a little longer. I'll kill you after I get this spirit dragon fruit, Lu Shuihen said coldly. He looked at the Jiaoling fruit with a burning gaze. As long as he obtained the Flood Dragon Spirit Fruit, he would be able to use it to break through to the 7th level Martial Grandmaster realm. At that time, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone in the Blood Ant Secret Realm, not even Yang Zaitian. At that time, how many Blood Ant eggs would he be able to obtain if he killed his way into the Blood Ant's nest? When he thought of this, his heart was burning. Breaking through to the 7th level Martial Grandmaster realm in the Blood Ant Secret Realm would not be rejected. People of the Star General Hall, if you dare to attack, I won't let any of you out. Lu Shuihen looked coldly at the people of the Star General Hall. Humph, Lu Shuihen, the Blood Ant Secret Realm is not yours. Everyone has a share. A young man from the Star General Hall said. He was one of the top 10 experts of the Star General Hall. As long as he obtained the Spirit Dragon Fruit, he would be able to break through to the 7th level Martial Grandmaster realm. At that time, he wouldn't be afraid of the Shifang Sword faction. Therefore, he was very strong and didn't want to back down. You're courting death. Wait until I obtain the Spirit Dragon Fruit and break through to the next level. I'll kill all these trash from the Star General Hall. Lu Shuihen's eyes flickered with a sinister light. Roar! Suddenly, the Spirit Dragon Fruit let out a dragon's roar. The Spirit Dragon Fruit shone brightly and a burst of medicinal fragrance spread throughout the area. After a few breaths, the brilliance dimmed, and the medicinal fragrance also faded, becoming more restrained. The Spirit Dragon Fruit had ripened. The Spirit Dragon Fruit is mine! Lu Shuihen roared and leaped out like an arrow, shooting towards the Spirit Dragon Fruit at high speed. Whoosh! Whoosh! The people of the Star General Hall and the Shifang Sword faction also rushed toward the Spirit Dragon Fruit. Get out of my way! Lu Shuihen roared and punched out. The surface of the lake exploded and pillars of water formed and shot toward the people of the Star General Hall. Damn it! The experts of the Star General Hall joined forces and blocked the water pillars. However, their bodies were hindered and they fell toward the lake. They stepped on the surface of the lake and stopped themselves. However, Lu Shuihen had already run a long distance. Trash like you want to stop me? The spirit dragon fruit is mine. Lu Shuihen sneered in his heart. However, he was stunned in the next moment. A figure stepped on the void and leaped over his head, heading straight for the spirit dragon fruit. Tianyun, stop right there! You're courting death! Lu Shuihen roared. He stepped on the surface of the water and dashed forward at high speed. At the same time, he waved his palms and the nearby lake water was driven by him. It condensed into water swords and pierced toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't even look and swept out with his spear. Bam! Bam! There was a loud explosion. The water swords were not scattered, but Lu Ming's body was affected by a huge force and fell down. The force of water is indeed amazing, especially on the surface of the lake. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Haha, Lu Ming, you haven't comprehended the force. You're still trash. Today you're dead. Lu Shuihen laughed, and a battle sword that looked like autumn water appeared in his hand. He waved the battle sword and the lake water formed pillars of water that blasted toward Lu Ming together with the sword chi. What's so great about comprehending the force? There was a cold smile on Lu Ming's lips as he spoke faintly. What's so great about it? Haha, you're just jealous, right? Lu Shuihen's voice stopped as he spoke. Because at this moment, Lu Ming's body suddenly burst out with a light and sharp chi. Force, the force of wind. Buzz! Lu Ming's spear shook and a gust of wind whistled out. The spears swept out and a tornado appeared on the surface of the lake. Bam! Bam! Lu Shuihen's water pillars were instantly scattered and the powerful force of the spear blasted toward Lu Shuihen. Lu Shuihen exerted all his strength and slashed out with his sword, which clashed with Lu Ming's spear. Bam! Lu Shuihen's body was directly sent flying and hit the surface of the lake, causing a large splash. Lu Shuihen was directly blasted into the lake. Behind him, the other disciples of 10 Directions Sword Sect and Star General Hall all gasped and widened their eyes. For a moment their bodies slowed down. Splash! The lake water splashed and Lu Shuihen rushed out of the lake and shouted in disbelief. Force of wind has reached minor accomplishment. How can you cultivate force of wind to minor accomplishment? He could feel that Lu Ming's force of wind had reached minor accomplishment, and its power was shocking. As for his water force, it was only at the entry level. It was unknown how far away it was from minor accomplishment. Isn't it just force? What's so great about it that you have to talk about it all the time? Chapter 225. During the 2 months in the Divine Wind Valley, Lu Ming's wind force had been improving at a rapid pace. Just a few days before entering the Blood and Secret Realm, his wind force had finally reached the minor accomplishment realm. There was a huge difference between someone who had reached initial success in force and someone who had yet to reach initial success. Lu Shuihen's face was flushed red. Previously, he had been arrogant and looked down on Lu Ming because he had comprehended force. But in the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had slapped him hard in the face with an even stronger force. The thing that he was so proud of was not worth mentioning in Lu Ming's eyes. This was a serious blow to his confidence. Kill! Let's kill him together! Lu Shuihen roared in anger. He must kill Lu Ming. Kill! More than 30 disciples of the Decimos Sword Sect roared as they ran on the lake toward Lu Ming. It was not difficult for martial artists above the 3rd level of the Martial Master Realm to walk on the water. More than 30 people attacked together, and their power was terrifying. Suddenly, the lake's surface was turbulent, and the waves swept over like a tsunami. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with killing intent as he shook the demon-banishing spear. Suddenly, dozens of spear radiances shot out. Under the support of the wind force, These spear radiances were shockingly fast and had terrifying penetrative power. Blood splattered and screams were heard. In an instant, more than a dozen disciples of the Decimo's sword sect were assassinated. Blood dyed the lake red. Kill! Lu Ming stepped on the void and rushed into the crowd like a tiger in a flock of sheep. No one could stop him as he reaped the lives of the disciples of the Decimo's sword sect. Not far away, the disciples of the General Hall stopped and looked at this scene with pale faces. This Tian Yun is too ruthless, isn't he? He really dares to kill the disciples of the Decimo's sword sect? Ruthless! This is a real ruthless person! The Star General Hall student's throat trembled as he cried out in shock. Lu Shuihen's face was also pale as he shouted, "Kill! Kill him!" However, he quickly ran toward the spirit dragon fruit. "Lu Shuihen, you're despicable!" A disciple of the Decimo's sword sect roared. In the same sect, there was a lot of competition. Of course, it was impossible for them to be so united. At this moment, Lu Shuihen was the first to slip away. He wanted to seize the opportunity to snatch the flood dragon's spirit fruit. Naturally, they wouldn't allow that. "Let's go, we're going to fight for the spirit dragon fruit too! The spirit dragon fruit is mine!" The remaining 10 Direction Sword Sect disciples immediately abandoned Lu Ming and ran toward the spirit flood dragon fruit. "Do you think it's that easy to come and go as you please?" Lu Ming sneered. His figure swooped down like a goshawk. He pulled out his long spear. 2 disciples of the 10 Direction Sword School screamed as they were killed on the lake. The others were horrified. Lu Ming tapped his foot on the surface of the lake and chased after Lu Shuihen. At this moment, Lu Shuihen was already close to the spirit dragon fruit. "Ha ha ha, the flood dragon spirit fruit is mine! As long as I pluck it, hide at the bottom of the lake, and refine it, Tianyun will die." Lu Shuihen's eyes flickered with a sinister light, but at the same time, there was a hint of excitement in them. He reached out his hand, and his true chi gushed out as he was about to pluck the spirit dragon fruit. Splash! At this moment, the surface of the lake suddenly surged. A giant claw covered with sharp spikes reached out from the lake and grabbed at Lu Shuihen. "What the hell is this?" Lu Shuihen's expression changed drastically. He slashed out with his battle sword and hit the giant claw. Sparks flew everywhere, but he was sent flying by the giant claw. "Damn it!" Lu Shuihen roared. Seeing the fat meat in his mouth disappear, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Splash! The surface of the lake surged as another giant claw came out. 2 disciples of the 10 Direction Sword Sect were caught off guard and were smashed into meat patties. Since then, only a dozen disciples of the 10 Direction Sword Sect were left. It was a heavy loss. Whoosh! The lake surged, and the thing under the lake was finally revealed. It was a monster that was dozens of meters long. Its body was covered with spikes, and its mouth was long and pointy. "Anteater? Could it be an anteater?" Someone shouted. This guy looked very similar to an anteater. It was very possible. The blood ant secret realm bred a large number of blood ants. It was normal for anteaters that fed on blood ants to be born. However, the size of this anteater was a little too big. The anteater appeared and let out a sharp cry. It moved the lake and pounced at Lu Shuihen and the others. The shocking thing was that at this moment, behind Lu Ming and the group, the lake water was surging and another anteater had appeared. The 2 anteaters surrounded Lu Ming and the group and charged toward them. Chi-chi, a dozen spikes shot out from the anteater's body. The spikes pierced through the air and let out a terrifying whistling sound. One of the spikes shot at Lu Ming. Lu Ming pulled out his long spear and knocked the spike away. What a powerful force! Lu Ming felt his arm go numb. The anteater's strength was extremely shocking. This is at least a Class 9 LV3 demonic beast, Lu Ming judged. He could knock away the anteater's spikes, but the others were not so lucky. Screams rose and fell. 12 people from the Star General Hall and the 10 Direction Sword Sect were killed in an instant. Blood dyed the lake. Go quickly! The remaining people from the Star General Hall and the 10 Directions Sword Sect turned pale with fright. They no longer cared about the spirit dragon fruit and desperately ran to the shore. However, how could two powerful demonic beasts that were equivalent to a martial Grand Master realm cultivator escape so easily? A few more corpses were left. In the end, only 8 people from both sides managed to escape to the shore. Once they reached the shore, the anteaters stopped chasing. However, there was an exception, and that was Lu Ming. He did not rush to the shore, but to the spirit dragon fruit. He rushed towards the fruit. The 2 anteaters became even more violent. They screamed and attacked Lu Ming crazily. Giant claws covered with spikes kept clawing at Lu Ming. Swish! Swish! Lu Ming used the high air steps to the extreme. His whole body seemed to be weightless and constantly flashed. One moment on the lake, the next in the air. Although the 2 anteaters tried their best to stop Lu Ming, they still could not stop him. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure suddenly jumped out from the water below the spirit dragon fruit. He grabbed the spirit dragon fruit and plucked it off. This figure was actually Shui Hen. He did not rush to the shore but took the opportunity to dive into the water. With his cultivation method and the power of water, he had a great advantage underwater. Ha ha ha! The spirit dragon fruit is mine! Shui Hen laughed wildly in his heart and revealed an excited expression. With a thought, he put the spirit dragon fruit into his storage ring. Just as he was about to dive into the water to escape, more than a dozen sharp spear lights stabbed at him. You want to take the spirit dragon fruit? In your dreams! Lu Ming sneered. His body flashed and approached Shui Hen. Tianyun, damn you! Shui Hen roared. The 2 anteaters were furious that the spirit dragon fruit had been plucked. They twisted their bodies and shot out dozens of spikes. Shui Hen was about to dive into the water. However, at this moment, a tail covered with spikes pulled out from below him. It was the tail of an anteater. Tianyun, get lost! Chapter 226. Although Lu Shui Hen was powerful, he was no match for Lu Ming. The sword of water that he had formed and the sword chi was shattered by Lu Ming's spear. PFFF. Lu Shui Hen's body was bleeding profusely from several wounds. Lu Shui Hen screamed and tried his best to avoid the anteater's attack. However, Lu Ming's spear reached him in an instant. Bang! Lu Shui Hen was sent flying like a rubber ball, leaving a trail of blood on the surface of the lake. He let out a miserable shriek. Half of his body had almost exploded, and one of his arms had disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming chased after Lu Shui Hen with murderous intent in his eyes. No, Tianyun, you can't kill me! I'm the top genius of Shifang Sword Sect. You won't have a good ending if you kill me! Lu Shui Hen screamed in fear. However, Lu Ming's eyes were firm and unmoved. Lu Shui Hen lost all hope and shouted, Tianyun, let me go! Please let me go! If you want the spirit dragon fruit, I'll give it to you! I'll give it to you! The spirit dragon fruit will be mine after I kill you! Lu Ming's voice was indifferent. His spear turned into a flash of lightning and shot out. No! Lu Shui Hen screamed, but his throat was pierced by Lu Ming's spear. Lu Shui Hen was dead. Lu Ming's true chi surged out and sucked Lu Shui Hen's storage ring into the Temple of Paragon. Of course, Lu Shui Hen's blood essence was also devoured. At this moment, the 2 anteaters also charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's figure flashed, dodging the attacks of the 2 anteaters and running towards the shore. Oh no, run! On the shore, the remaining disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect turned pale with fright and turned to run. Lu Shui Hen was killed. If they stayed, they would be courting death. Run! There were a few disciples of the Hall of General, and some of them were even among the top 10 disciples of the Outer Hall. However, they looked at Lu Ming in fear and did not dare to stay. They turned and ran away. They were afraid that Lu Ming would go crazy and kill them too. Lu Ming walked on the waves. No matter how hard the 2 anteaters tried to attack him, they couldn't even touch a single hair on his body. It's a pity that there are 2 of them. If there was only one, I would want to fight, Lu Ming muttered. With his current combat strength, he really wanted to fight it. However, there were two of them. Forget it, it would be a waste of time. Lu Ming leaped across the surface of the lake and collected all the dead disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect and the Star Hall students' rings of holding. At the same time, he devoured their blood essence. I don't want to play with you anymore. After plundering everything, Lu Ming let out a long laugh. His figure soared into the sky like a gust of wind, reaching a height of over 100 meters. He stepped on the air and came to the shore. The two anteaters screamed, but in the end, they didn't chase after him. After that, Lu Ming turned around and left. After 50 miles, he stopped and clenched his fist, and a storage ring appeared in his hand. That storage ring belonged to Lu Xuehen. Lu Ming couldn't wait to look at it. Sure enough, the spirit dragon fruit was lying quietly in the storage ring. With a wave of his hand, the spirit dragon fruit appeared in his hand, emitting a strong medicinal fragrance. Lu Ming took a whiff and felt that the true qi in his body seemed to have sped up. What a strong medicinal effect! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, he swallowed the spirit dragon fruit and began to refine it. The spirit dragon fruit's energy was extremely terrifying. Once it entered his mouth, it turned into a huge amount of energy that flowed into his limbs and bones. Lu Ming activated the true dragon of war and refined it with all his might. Lu Ming tried to break through to the 4th level of the true dragon of war with all his might. Originally, breaking through to the 4th level required a total of 6 extremely precious treasures of heaven and earth, as well as dozens of supplementary materials. However, that was no longer necessary. One spirit dragon fruit was enough. As the spirit dragon fruit was refined, the true dragon of war's true qi continued to condense and become stronger. 2 hours later, Lu Ming's body shook and he opened his eyes. He couldn't help but let out a long roar that sounded like a dragon's roar. Fortunately, he was in the Temple of Paragon. If he was outside, his roar would have spread across dozens of miles. I have broken through to the 4th level of the true dragon of war. Lu Ming slowly raised his right hand and gently clenched it. The air in his palm was caught by Lu Ming and crackling sounds could be heard. The density of my true qi is 5 times that of an ordinary martial artist. It's so strong! Feeling the surging true qi in his body, Lu Ming's lips curled into a satisfied smile. Now, let's see what I've gained! Lu Ming took out a pile of storage rings and counted them. There were a total of 42 rings. These were all storage rings left behind by geniuses above the martial master realm. Lu Ming was looking forward to the items inside. He opened them one by one and counted them. Finally, he categorized them and piled them up in front of Lu Ming. There was a small pile of various spiritual herbs, but most of them were not of a high grade. All kinds of spiritual pills were stored in jade bottles, piled up in a huge pile. They were definitely worth a fortune. There were also various ores, materials from demonic beasts, spiritual weapons, etc. Lu Ming categorized them. There were also stacks of banknotes, which added up to a few 100 million taels. This was a huge sum. Even if it was converted into spiritual crystals, it would be worth tens of thousands. What surprised Lu Ming the most were not these, but the spiritual crystals and blood and eggs. There were more than 80,000 spiritual crystals, which filled up several large boxes. There were also 536 blood and eggs. This was much more than what Lu Ming had obtained in the past few days. Ha ha! These resources are enough for me to use for a period of time. On the 3rd platform, I will need more spiritual crystals as my cultivation increases. I don't have to worry about it for the time being. Lu Ming laughed heartily. When Lu Ming was at the 1st level of the martial master realm, he needed 9 spirit crystals to condense a figure with the same combat ability as him on the 3rd platform. However, as Lu Ming's cultivation increased, he needed more spiritual crystals. For the 2nd layer of the martial master realm, he needed 18 spiritual crystals. For the 3rd layer of the martial master realm, he needed 36 spiritual crystals. Now that Lu Ming was in the 5th layer of the martial master realm, he needed 144 spiritual crystals each time. This was too extravagant. One time, for 6 hours, he needed 144 spiritual crystals. As his cultivation increased, he would need even more. How could an ordinary person afford it? In the past few months, Lu Ming had used a few thousand spiritual crystals just to condense the spiritual crystals to fight with him. Without this replenishment, Lu Ming wouldn't have been able to last long with the spiritual crystals he had. It's better to rob others. Resources come quickly. It's much faster than working hard to obtain them. Lu Ming sighed. Rob others? Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. That's right, rob. Since the Shifang sword sect wanted to kill him, why should he be polite? Ha, good, let's do it. I'll wait for them at the blood ant nest. Chapter 227. 3 hours later, Lu Ming arrived at a desolate plain. Not even a blade of grass could be seen. In the middle of the plain, there was a large pit with a radius of more than 100 meters. Standing at the edge and looking down, one could see that the pit was filled with caves. Occasionally, one could see a few blood ants crawling in and out. This was the blood ant's nest. Lu Ming sat cross-legged beside the pit, waiting for the others to arrive. Only 3 days had passed. There were still 7 days before the blood ant's secret realm closed. Lu Ming cultivated while waiting. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. During these 5 days, not a single person came. Lu Ming was not in a hurry. He knew very well that in the first 7 to 8 days, everyone would be in other places, looking for opportunities and hunting blood ants. They would only rush to the blood ant's nest in the last 2 days to try their luck. In a swamp, corpses of blood ants were lying on the ground. The eggs in their abdomens had all disappeared. Let's go to the blood ant's nest. With a light shout, a young man with a cold and arrogant expression rushed out of the swamp and towards the blood ant's nest. Behind him were more than 10 young men. In a mountain peak, a long howl could be heard. Let's go to the blood ant's nest. Soon after, more than 10 figures leaped towards the blood ant's nest. In a large valley, more than 10 students from the general hall were surrounded by more than 30 disciples from the Decimo's sword faction. Decimo's sword faction, must you be so ruthless? A student from the general hall shouted in despair. Nonsense, I already said that if we meet you from the general hall, we will kill without mercy. Kill! More than 30 young experts from the Decimo's sword faction surrounded and killed more than 10 students from the general hall. There was no suspense at all. Not long after, more than 10 corpses appeared in the valley. Humph, what bullshit general hall! Just a bunch of mobs. It's a pity that we didn't meet that Tianyun. Otherwise, we could have received Elder Chiu Wuji's reward. A young man with a majestic figure sneered. Senior Brother Gao, that Tianyun is lucky. If he were to meet you, he would definitely be trampled under your feet within 10 moves. I wonder which senior brother would be so lucky to meet Tianyun. Yes. However, in my opinion, that Tianyun must have found a place to hide. As long as he hides until the secret realm closes and rushes out at the last moment, he will be safe. It's safe. Even if he didn't die in the blood and mystic realm, we can still kill him when we get out. At the side, the other disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect flattered him. Senior Brother Gao laughed so hard that he couldn't close his mouth. After a while he said, All right, that Tianyun is quite capable. Even if I encounter him, it will take me some effort. It will take me at least a dozen moves. Let's set off now and go to the blood ant's nest. There are great opportunities there. Go! Then, they also headed towards the blood ant nest. In a mountain forest, a shocking sword sheath swept across. More than a dozen huge blood ants were cut in half by a single sword chi. Among them, there was even a Class 3 LV7 blood ant. A figure appeared. It was Yang Zitian. His eyes were like lightning and his aura was terrifying. With a wave of his hand, a large string of blood ant eggs flew into his hand. After so many days, my cultivation has finally broken through. Now, it's time to go to the blood ant nest. I will empty the nest and obtain a large number of blood-refining pills to accumulate blood qi. In the future, I will definitely awaken the king bloodline and trample the 6 heroes of the burning sun under my feet. Yang Zhaitian's eyes were full of arrogance and confidence. Then, his figure flashed and he headed towards the blood ant nest. Beside the blood ant nest, Lu Ming, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly raised his eyebrows and opened his eyes. In the distance, more than a dozen figures were rushing towards him. Finally, someone is here. Lu Ming's face broke into a smile. There were a total of 12 people. At first glance, he could tell that they were disciples of the 10 Directions Sword sect. In a short while, the 12 of them approached the blood ant nest. That is, Tianyun. When the 12 of them saw Tianyun, their faces changed slightly and they stopped. They did not approach him. Instead, they were a little wary. Among them, there were no strong experts. And they had seen Lu Ming's combat strength. They were no match for him. Tianyun, it turns out that you have been hiding here these days. You really know how to choose a place. No wonder so many disciples of the Decimos Sword sect could not find you. A disciple of the Decimos Sword sect shouted. Hiding here? Lu Ming said with a faint smile on his face. You can say that. Well, cut the crap. Now, hand over your storage rings. What? You want us to hand over our storage rings? The 12 disciples of the Decimos Sword sect were stunned. Nonsense. Don't you understand human language? I'm robbing you. Hand over your storage rings and you'll live. Otherwise, you'll have to stay here forever. Lu Ming said coldly. Tianyun, how dare you? We didn't find trouble with you. You actually want to rob our storage rings. Outrageous. The 12 disciples of the Decimos Sword sect were in disbelief. Could it be that Lu Ming was waiting here just to rob them? How dare he do that? Bang! Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with them. He directly attacked. His figure was like a bolt of lightning, instantly arriving above the 12 people. The demon's suppressing spear shook and turned into 12 spear shadows, blasting towards the 12 people. Tianyun, don't think that we are afraid of you. Let's kill him together. The 12 people roared and attacked together. 12 attacks blasted towards Lu Ming. Bang! Bang! There was a roar and the earth exploded. The 12 people screamed. Half of their bodies were blown into the ground. They vomited blood and looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. Although there were no top geniuses among the 12 of them who comprehended force, they were not ordinary martial artists. However, the 12 of them were as weak as babies in the hands of Lu Ming. They could not resist at all. With just one move, they were blasted half to death. Now, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the 5th level of the martial master realm. The true dragon battle art had broken through to the 4th level. Coupled with the demon's suppressing spear's weight of more than 10,000 kilograms, the power of a casual spear strike was astonishing. It was not something that ordinary people could block. What about now? Are you going to hand over your storage rings or not? Lu Ming looked down at the 12 youths of the Decimos Sword sect. Yes, we will hand them over. The 12 youths shouted and took off the storage rings in their hands and handed them to Lu Ming. Lu Ming put them away with a smile and waved his hand, saying, Get lost! The 12 people struggled out of the ground as if they had been pardoned and staggered into the distance. Lu Ming did not really want to kill all the disciples of the Decimos Sword sect. If necessary, he could kill a small part of them as a deterrent. If he really killed all the disciples of the Decimos Sword sect, the higher-ups of the Decimos Sword sect would probably go crazy and kill him at all costs. This was not what Lu Ming wanted now. After all, he still did not have the strength to fight against the entire Decimos Sword sect. After putting away the 12 storage rings, Lu Ming was about to continue sitting cross-legged. In another direction, 2 figures came over at an extremely fast speed. It's really a case of searching high and low, only to find it by chance. Lu Ming's eyes revealed a cold, killing intent. Chapter 228. At this moment, Bai Qi and the green-robed young man were smiling. During this period of time, they had worked together to secretly hunt the blood ants. In addition, both of them were originally the top 10 experts of the Star General Hall, so they had a good harvest. During this period, they even came across an ant nest which they cleared. Moreover, as long as they encountered the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword faction, regardless of their strength, they would stay far away. Therefore, they did not encounter any danger. Haha, the blood and eggs this time are enough to exchange for a lot of blood-refining pills. In the future, we will definitely awaken a powerful second bloodline. At that time, the Star General Hall will belong to the two of us. The green-robed young man laughed. That's right. That Tianyun actually wanted to kill me. Unfortunately, he was too arrogant. He actually dared to challenge all the experts of 10 Directions Sword Sect. I reckon that he would have been killed by the disciples of 10 Directions Sword Sect. Bai Chi's eyes revealed a sinister look. We're almost at the blood ant nest. Let's observe secretly and wait for the others to make a move. We'll wait for the opportunity to collect some blood ant eggs. Eh? There's someone in front. As the green-robed young man spoke, he was suddenly stunned and looked ahead. There's someone? Bai Chi also looked over. With one glance, his face changed drastically and he almost wet himself. Tianyun, why aren't you dead yet? Bai Chi let out a sharp scream. How can I die when you're not dead yet? Lu Ming stood up and looked coldly at Bai Chi. Go quickly! Bai Chi's body began to tremble. He let out a low growl and ran back. The green-robed young man's reaction was even faster than Bai Chi's. He had already turned around and ran away. Bai Chi, I've said that I will kill you. Do you think you can run away? Lu Ming smiled faintly. He stepped out and chased after Bai Chi like the wind. Ah! Bai Chi screamed. He felt his legs and stomach trembling. His body was cold, and he ran forward with all his strength. Wait for me! Bai Chi shouted. The green-robed young man was running in front of him, and was faster than him. Why would the green-robed youth care about him? Outside the blood and mystic realm, he had also targeted Lu Ming. Now, he was scared to death, so how could he stop? Bai Chi felt a chill run down his spine as his scalp went numb. He felt as if the Grim Reaper was approaching him. Escape! I must escape! I can't die! Bai Chi roared. However, Lu Ming was getting closer and closer to him. At this moment, dozens of figures suddenly rushed over from afar. They were all disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect. Bai Chi's eyes lit up and he was overjoyed. His speed seemed to have increased as he ran towards the 10 Directions Sword Sect with all his might. He shouted, Brothers of the 10 Directions Sword Sect, Tianyun is here, Tianyun is here, he killed your disciples. Regardless of whether Lu Ming had killed him or not, he had to say that Lu Ming had killed him. Only then would he be able to escape. Tianyun? There were more than 30 disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect in front, led by senior brother Gao. At this moment, he was stunned. Then, he revealed a cold murderous intent and shouted, It's Tianyun, ha ha ha, I finally met him. Immediately, he rushed towards Lu Ming. Ha ha, senior brother Gao is so lucky. The other disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect laughed and followed. When Lu Ming saw the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect, he was not shocked but happy. He was not in a hurry to chase after Bai Chi and walked forward slowly. Swish! Swish! In a flash, the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect surrounded Lu Ming. Huff! Bai Chi was overjoyed and let out a long breath. Kid, although you are from the Star General Hall, since Tianyun wants to kill you, I have to protect you. Stand still! Senior brother Gao glanced at Bai Chi and ordered. Yes, yes! Bai Chi nodded repeatedly, but he was laughing in his heart. Tianyun, the heavens didn't kill me. Now the one who will die is you. Senior brother Gao stopped looking at Bai Chi and looked at Lu Ming with cold murderous intent. Tianyun, you have been hiding from me for so many days. In the end, you will die in my hands. Remember my name, I am Gao Tianqua. Gao Tianqua, right? Very well, now, I announce that this is a robbery. Hand over your storage rings. Lu Ming curled his lips. What? What did you say? Robbery? Gao Tianque shouted, thinking that he had heard wrongly. Nonsense, hand over your storage rings, or you will stay here forever, Lu Ming said coldly. Ha ha ha, Tianyun, I think you are crazy. Now I will wake you up. Gao Tianque laughed. Dong! Then, he took a step forward and the earth rumbled. A strong and heavy aura was emitted from Gao Tianque's body, like a mountain standing there. The aura of a mountain! Go to hell! A huge sword appeared in Gao Tianque's hands. He took big strides and charged toward Lu Ming. It was as though a huge mountain was crashing toward Lu Ming. Tianyun is dead! Some disciples of Shifang's sword sect sneered. But the next moment, they were all stunned. Boom! A scorching and explosive aura rose from Lu Ming's body. The scorching aura rolled out, and the temperature within 100 meters rose rapidly. Boom! Lu Ming struck with his spear. It was like a meteor falling from the sky, crashing into a huge mountain. The mountain shattered with a bang. Gao Tianque screamed and his body flew out like a rubber ball. The whole place suddenly quieted down. Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. Seen your brother Gao lost? He was defeated in one move? How is this possible? The disciples of Shifang's sword sect said in a daze. Not far away, Bai Chi's pupils shrank sharply, and his face was full of disbelief. He roared in his heart. The aura of fire, impossible, impossible! He found it hard to accept. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward, and the aura on his body burst out, pressing toward the disciples of Shifang's sword sect. Oh no, let's attack together! The disciples of Shifang's sword sect shouted. Landslide! Lu Ming whispered, and the demon-suppressing spears shone, condensing a giant spear as thick as a water tank and as long as 100 meters. The giant spear pressed down, and a terrifying shock wave blasted downward and exploded in all directions. Screams and roars sounded. The disciples of Shifang's sword sect were like rubber balls, and they were sent flying and fell everywhere. Only 2 people were still standing there. Bai Chi and the young man in green robe. At this time, Bai Chi's face was pale, and his body was trembling nonstop. His lips were trembling, and his eyes were full of horror. How can he be so strong? How can he be so strong? He kept muttering under his breath. It was simply unbelievable. Originally, when he met the disciples of Shifang's sword sect, he was ecstatic and thought that he was saved. He thought that Lu Ming was dead for sure and couldn't kill him at all. However, he never dreamed that more than 30 disciples of Shifang's sword sect, including a peerless genius who comprehended aura, would be defeated by Lu Ming in a few moves. How could this be? Now let's see who can save you. Lu Ming walked toward Bai Chi step by step with a teasing smile on his face. No, don't kill me! Bai Chi shouted, unable to summon the courage to resist. Don't kill you? Haha, you're really naive. Tell me, if you can give me a reason not to kill you, I won't kill you. Chapter 229. Bai Chi could only say the word I, and could not continue. Previously, outside the blood and secret realm, he had repeatedly targeted Lu Ming and purposely pushed the blame to Lu Ming for the 10 Direction Sword faction's intention to kill the Star General Hall's disciples. This caused the Star General Hall's disciples to reveal the truth to Lu Ming. Just now, he had instigated the 10 Direction Sword faction disciples to kill Lu Ming. Was there a reason why Lu Ming did not kill him? He could not think of any reason. Seems like there isn't. Then die, Lu Ming said coldly. No, don't kill me. Suddenly, Bai Chi knelt down and cried out. Tianyun, please spare my dog life. I will do whatever you want me to do in the future. I will be your slave from now on. I will do whatever you want me to do. Be my slave? Are you worthy? Lu Ming said indifferently. Boom! A powerful aura burst out from his body and pressed down on Bai Chi and the green-robed youth. Bai Chi felt as though a mountain was pressing down on him, and it became difficult for him to breathe. It's not that easy to kill me, At this moment, the green-robed youth roared and charged at Lu Ming with all his strength. He wanted to trade his life for a chance of survival. But how was that possible? Swoosh! The dazzling spear pierced through the air and pierced through the green-robed youth's forehead. Blood splattered everywhere, and red and white substances splattered all over Bai Chi's face. Bai Chi screamed in horror. At this moment, he felt hopeless and helpless. The green-robed youth was stronger than him, but he was killed by Lu Ming in one move. He did not even have the courage to resist. Don't kill me. I was wrong. I shouldn't have offended you. I was wrong. Bai Chi screamed hysterically. At this moment, he was extremely regretful. He regretted offending Lu Ming. Lu Ming was not someone he could afford to offend. It's all Bai Long's fault. It's all his fault. Why did he have to offend this demon? It's all his fault. Bai Chi screamed in his heart. He blamed everything on Bai Long. If it wasn't for Bai Long, how would he have offended Lu Ming? You're really a piece of trash. You've dirtied my hands. Lu Ming muttered. Yes, killing me will dirty your hands. Yes, you're right. Bai Chi seemed to have grasped the last life-saving straw and shouted loudly. However, I won't feel at ease if I don't kill you. Lu Ming whispered again. There was a bone-chilling coldness in his voice. Don't. Just as Bai Chi was about to shout, a spear light flashed and disappeared, sinking into Bai Chi's glabella. Bai Chi was dead. Now it's time for you to hand over your storage rings, right? Lu Ming glanced at the disciples of Decimo's sword sect. The disciples of Decimo's sword sect were horrified. They had just witnessed Lu Ming's terrifying combat strength and ruthless means. However, they were disciples of Decimo's sword sect. They were usually high and mighty. Now, they had to hand over their storage rings. This was simply a great humiliation. Tianyun, Decimo's sword sect will not let you go if you do this. Someone shouted. It seems that you don't want to hand it over. Then I'll take it myself. Lu Ming sneered. His figure flickered like a ghost. The disciples of Decimo's sword sect had been seriously injured by Lu Ming just now. They had no strength to resist and their storage rings were taken by Lu Ming. At the same time, Lu Ming grabbed and threw the disciples of Decimo's sword sect one by one. They fell heavily to the ground. Then, the second one was stacked higher and higher like a human pyramid. The last one was Gao Tianque. Lu Ming took off his storage ring and kicked him out. Gao Tianque flew high into the air, stacking on top of more than 30 Shifang sword sect disciples. More than 30 disciples of Decimo's sword sect were stacked more than 10 meters high. Lu Ming moved and appeared at the highest point. He stepped on Gao Tianque's body and waited. More than 30 disciples of Decimo's sword sect roared, but it was no use. After a while, Lu Ming raised his head and looked into the distance. Finally, they're here, Lu Ming whispered. In the distance, many figures were leaping and coming here at an extremely fast speed. There were more than 200 people. Decimo's sword sect hurried the remaining people of Star Hall to this place. In the blood ant nest. The silhouette flickered, and soon, he arrived in the vicinity. Tianyun, that's Tianyun. That's our senior brothers of Decimo's sword sect. Damn it, how could they be defeated by Tianyun? Damn it, Tianyun actually did this to them. He deserves to die. There were close to 200 disciples of the Shifang sword sect who witnessed this scene. Their eyes turned red and they exuded a cold, murderous intent. All of them stared at Lu Ming with murderous intent. In another direction, more than 20 disciples of Star General Hall were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. This Tianyun is too domineering, isn't he? Domineering, I think he's courting death. We'd better stay away from him. The disciples of Star General Hall discussed animatedly. Brother Tianyun! Myongcheng was also among them. At this moment, he shouted and rushed toward Lu Ming. Brother Ming, stay away from me and watch the show. Lu Ming smiled at Myongcheng and waved his hand. Myongcheng couldn't help but stop. It seemed that Lu Ming's words had some kind of magical power that he couldn't refuse. Even he didn't realize it. Tianyun, why aren't you moving your smelly feet? Let go of my 10 Direction Sword Faction's senior brothers. Speak, what despicable means did you use to sneak attack the experts of Decimo's sword sect? Damn it, your behavior will not be enough even if you die 10,000 times. Do you know that? The disciples of Decimo's sword sect continued to shout. However, Lu Ming couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. After shouting for a while, he slowly stopped. I asked them to hand over their storage rings, but they refused. That's why they ended up like this. Now, hand over your storage rings. Otherwise, you'll also end up like them. At this moment, Lu Ming's indifferent voice spread throughout the place. What? The disciples of Decimo's sword sect were stunned. The disciples of Star General Hall were also stunned. Tianyun was robbing the disciples of Decimo's sword sect. Crazy, crazy, Tianyun is crazy. Everyone shouted in their hearts. Tianyun actually wanted to rob nearly 200 people of Decimo's sword sect alone. If he wasn't crazy, what was? Tianyu, it seems that you've really gone crazy after hiding for a few days. But no matter what, you're dead today. Among the disciples of Decimo's sword sect, a tall and thin figure walked out, exuding a powerful aura. Lu Ming recognized that this person was one of the 6 disciples of Decimo's sword sect who had comprehended the force. Whoosh! Whoosh! In a flash, another 2 young men walked out. Their aura was not weaker than that of the tall and thin young man. The 2 of them had also comprehended the force. The 3 of them stared at Lu Ming with murderous intent, ready to attack at any time. Don't be careless. This person's battle strength is not to be underestimated. You'd better join forces to kill him. Gao Tianque, who was under Lu Ming's feet, shouted. The expressions of the disciples of Decimo's sword sect changed. They originally thought that Lu Ming had used some despicable means to injure Gao Tianque and the others, but now it seemed that things were not that simple. Was Lu Ming really that strong? Chapter 230. Tianyun is despicable and shameless. He deserves to die. Elder Qiu Wuji wants to kill him. Let's attack together and kill him. The thin and tall youth waved his hand and shouted. Okay, let's attack together. The other disciples of the 10 Direction sword sect roared. Nearly 200 people unsheathed their swords and terrifying sword she gathered together, stirring up the wind and clouds. The ground emitted a sizzling sound as sword marks appeared. In the distance, the faces of the people of the Star General Hall changed. The aura of nearly 200 disciples of the 10 Direction sword sect was too shocking. Even a 9th-level martial master expert would have to retreat. Tianyun is too arrogant. He has to reap what he sowed. Someone in the Star General Hall said. Brother Tianyun! Myungcheng roared, extremely worried. Ha ha ha, if you want to attack, then attack. So much nonsense. Let me see if the 10 Direction sword sect is all trash. Lu Ming laughed. You're courting death. Attack, kill him. The disciples of the 10 Direction sword sect roared. Whoosh! Whoosh! All of a sudden, more than 50 sword auras soared into the sky, slashing violently toward Lu Ming with terrifying power. More than 50 sword chi completely enveloped Lu Ming. Lu Ming's eyes were calm as the corner of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Whoosh! Lu Ming's figure flashed, and his body emitted a light and swift aura. He took a step in the air and suddenly, a string of afterimages appeared in the air. No one could tell which was real and which was fake. More than 50 sword chi slashed at the afterimages. None of them hit the real Lu Ming. Wind force, it's the wind force. Someone from the 10 Direction sword sect shouted. So he has comprehended the wind force. No wonder he's so arrogant. Everyone, attack together and block all his escape routes. Even if he has comprehended the wind force, he will still die. The thin and tall youth roared. However, no one noticed that the 30 people who were stacked up by Lu Ming had their eyes wide open in shock. Wind force? Just now, Lu Ming attacked them. He clearly used the power of fire. Now, he actually used the power of wind? Could it be that he had comprehended 2 types of force? They found it inconceivable. A martial Grand Master at such a young age actually comprehended two forces. What kind of demonic genius was this? Not good. He has not only comprehended the force of wind, but also the force of fire. Gao Tianque roared. What? The other disciples of the Ten Directions Sword sect were all stunned. He even comprehended the power of fire? How could this be? Had Gao Tianque been beaten silly? In the martial Grand Master realm, being able to comprehend a force was already a rare genius. They were 1 in 10,000, extremely rare. As for comprehending two potentials? How could this be? There aren't many martial ancestor realm martial artists who have comprehended two forces, right? Gao Tianque must have been beaten silly, they were sure. However, in the next moment, they felt that they were dumbfounded. Boom! At this time, a terrifying fluctuation erupted from Lu Ming's body like a volcanic eruption. This was another type of power, the power of fire. The eyes of the disciples of the Ten Directions Sword sect almost popped out, and they were tongue-tied. Lu Ming really comprehended two forces. How could this be? Kill! At this time, Lu Ming roared like thunder. His body moved, and he rushed towards the disciples of the Ten Directions Sword sect. With the combination of the force of wind and fire, his combat strength skyrocketed. Let's attack together. Even if he has comprehended two forces, what can he do? After all, he's only one person. If we attack together, we can definitely kill him. Let's attack together. Boom! Boom! Sword chi rose one after another. There were a total of 200 sword chi, which was extremely terrifying. Landslide! Lu Ming roared, holding the spear with both hands, and a huge spear light that was 100 meters long formed. This spear seemed to be real, just like a real long spear. Around the spear light, there were blazing flames and strong winds. The wind helped the fire, causing the flames to burn more vigorously, like a flaming spear. Boom! The huge spear radiance blasted down, containing a terrifying vibrating will. Kill! Kill! Nearly 200 disciples of the Ten Directions Sword sect roared, and the dazzling sword chi slashed towards Lu Ming. When the spear light and the sword chi collided, there was a violent explosion. Terrifying vibrations rippled outwards in circles, forming a strong gale. The ground seemed to have been plowed, and deep gullies appeared, extending hundreds of meters away. At the center of the spear light and the sword chi, there was a deep pit that was more than 10 meters deep and more than 30 meters wide. How is Tianyan? He should have been killed, right? In the distance, the people of the Star General Hall looked at the scene filled with smoke and dust and guessed. But when the smoke and dust dissipated, they were stunned. Lu Ming stood proudly with a long spear in his hand. His body emitted a strong battle intent, and he stood straight. What happened? There was not even a trace of a wound. On the other hand, some of the people of the Ten Directions Sword sect, such as the 3rd and 4th level martial master martial artists, had pale faces, and blood flowed out of the corners of their mouths. Not only did Lu Ming not die, but he also had the upper hand. How was this possible? With nearly 200 people working together, even a 9th level martial master martial artist would have to retreat. Lu Ming actually blocked them and even had the upper hand. This was like a fantasy story. The nearly 200 people of the Ten Directions Sword sect all stared in disbelief. The geniuses of the Ten Directions Sword sect are only SOSO. Today, leave your storage rings, or die. Swish. Lu Ming took a step forward and rushed towards the people of the Ten Directions Sword sect. Join hands, don't split up. Someone shouted. But it was too late. Lu Ming was like a tiger in a pack of wolves, rushing into the disciples of the Ten Directions Sword sect. With a sweep of his long spear, dozens of people were swept away and fell to the ground, blood spurting out. They could not resist Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming's current combat strength was too strong. With the cultivation of a 5th level martial master, the 4th level of the true dragon battle art, and the force of wind and fire had reached the initial success, his combat strength was terrifying. These young men, who were at the peak of the 6th level martial master, were no match for Lu Ming at all. Even those young men who had comprehended the force were the same. Bang! Bang! In a few breaths, a large number of disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect fell to the ground. There were more than 100 of them. The people of the Star Commandant Hall were dumbfounded. Some of them rubbed their eyes hard, thinking that they were dreaming. This is a monster, a monster! Myongcheng was also stunned and roared in his heart. He thought that he had overestimated Lu Ming as much as possible, but in the end, he realized that he had underestimated Lu Ming. Lu Ming's strength was far beyond his imagination. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and swung it. A large number of disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect fell to the ground with their bones broken. Including a genius who had comprehended the force, he could not escape the fate of having his bones broken. Run! The other disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect shouted, scared out of their wits. There was no way to resist at all. Their strength was not on the same level at all. Stop! At this moment, a loud roar was heard. A figure stepped on the void and rushed over at an extremely fast speed. It's Senior Brother Yang Zhaitian. Senior Brother Yang Zhaitian is here. We are saved. Chapter 231. The disciples of the Shifang sword sect were overjoyed because Yang Zhaitian had arrived. However, Lu Ming just glanced at them casually and continued to attack. Bang! Bang! One by one, the disciples of the Shifang sword sect were sent flying. When Yang Zhaitian arrived, there were only a few who could stand. Yang Zhaitian looked around with an extremely gloomy face, then looked at Lu Ming and said coldly, I told you to stop, didn't you hear me? I heard you, but who do you think you are? Do you think I should stop just because you asked me to? Lu Ming glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. Yang Zhaitian froze, and his face became even more gloomy. Lu Ming actually dared to ask who he was? Yang Zhaitian was so angry that he laughed and said, Tianyun, I said before that you're my prey. At that time, I was just casually saying it, but now you're dead. There's no way you can survive. Do you people of the Shifang sword sect have the same trick? You said I'm dead as soon as we met, but you're all lying here. You'll be the same soon. Lu Ming sneered. Don't compare me to these trash, Yang Zhaitian said. The other disciples of the Shifang sword sect had ugly expressions. Yang Zhaitian said they were trash in public, so of course, they felt uncomfortable. In my eyes, you're similar to them. You're all trash. Lu Ming smiled faintly. How dare you! Yang Zhaitian shouted angrily, and his killing intent was extremely cold. He, Yang Zhaitian, had been a genius since he was born. Along the way, he had defeated his peers and was almost invincible. Now Lu Ming actually said he was trash, which was a great humiliation. He must kill Lu Ming. Tianyun, you've succeeded. You've successfully angered me. Today, I'll break all the bones in your body and feed you to the blood ants. Yang Zhaitian roared, and the aura on his body burst out. Moreover, it was constantly improving. Soon, he broke through the limit of the peak 6th level Martial Master Realm and entered the 7th level Martial Master Realm. 7th layer Martial Grand Master! Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. 7th level Martial Master. Senior Brother Yang Zhaitian has broken through to the 7th level Martial Master. Tianyun is dead for sure. The disciples of the 10 Directions sword faction cried out in ecstasy. Yang Zhaitian was a peerless genius to begin with, suppressing his peers. With such a breakthrough in cultivation, his battle prowess would also skyrocket. Senior Brother Yang Zhaitian, don't kill Tianyun so easily. I want to torture him. Not bad. The disciples of the 10 Directions sword faction shouted one after another. Tianyun, I saw it just now. You actually comprehended 2 types of force. It's indeed shocking. But let me tell you, force is about quality, not quantity. Moreover, no matter how much force you have, in front of absolute power, it will collapse. Yang Zhaitian's eyes were like lightning, and his aura was like a tiger. He took a step forward, and the earth rumbled. You talk too much nonsense. You're just looking for excuses for your incompetence. Lu Ming scolded. I'm incompetent? Ha ha ha, you're courting death. Yang Zitian roared, and the battle sword on his back was unsheathed, and a scorching aura burst out. Force, it was actually the force of fire. I'll show you the true power of fire! Yang Zitian roared, and his figure quickly rushed toward Lu Ming, slashing out with his sword. The force of fire wrapped around the sword chi, and an astonishing power erupted. So, it's the force of fire! Lu Ming muttered. Your force is only superficial, but mine is already at the force of small accomplishment. This is the essence! Yang Zitian roared, and his voice was filled with contempt. Just now, Lu Ming's force didn't erupt with full force. He thought that although Lu Ming had comprehended two types of force, it was only superficial. How could Lu Ming fight against him? A frog at the bottom of a well! Lu Ming smiled faintly. What? Yang Zitian was stunned, but in the next moment, his face changed wildly. This was because Lu Ming's aura was rising uncontrollably. First was the force of fire. It instantly reached the force of small accomplishment, and it was still rising. In the end, although it didn't reach the major accomplishment, it was still stronger than Yang Zitian's force. Boom! A spear light shot out and collided with Yang Zitian's sword chi, and both dissipated. How is this possible? How can your force of fire be so strong? What's going on? Yang Zitian roared. He couldn't believe it. Just now, he was still looking down on Lu Ming, saying that Lu Ming had a lot of force but was not proficient. But immediately, he realized that not only did Lu Ming have a lot of force, he was even more proficient than him. It was like he was slapping himself in the face. This is impossible. Then let's continue. Boom! Lu Ming's force rose again. This time, it was the force of wind. All the way up, it was like a hurricane sweeping the sky. In the end, Lu Ming's force of wind also reached the force of small accomplishment. Force of wind has reached the force of small accomplishment. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. You're cheating. How can you comprehend two types of force to the force of small accomplishment? Yang Zitian no longer had a trace of calmness and shouted hysterically. Even his facial features were distorted. He comprehended force at the 9th level of the martial master realm, which was rare in the Shifang sword sect. And at the 6th level of the martial master realm, he cultivated the force of fire to the small accomplishment, which was even rarer. He had always been incomparably arrogant, taking the 6 heroes of the burning sun as his goal and not putting others in his eyes. But now, he suddenly realized that Lu Ming's talent was stronger than his by a lot, which made it hard for him to accept. Die, this Tianyun must die. In this world, there can't be a genius who surpasses me. Yang Zitian roared in his heart. Kill! Without hesitation, his bloodline erupted and he attacked Lu Ming with all his strength. Die! The sword chi was shocking and incomparably hot. Yang Zitian was definitely a peerless genius. His battle strength was extremely terrifying. At this moment, he attacked with all his strength. His power was shocking. Even a martial artist of the 8th level of the martial master realm would be killed in one move. A martial artist of the 9th level of the martial master realm would also have to retreat. However, he met Lu Ming. The force of wind and fire combined, turning into a blazing flame spear light that soared into the sky. Boom! Lu Ming and Yang Zitian collided, turning into a terrifying and scorching shockwave that swept in all directions. Not good, retreat! The disciples of the Decimo sword faction roared and frantically retreated without caring about their injuries. The people of the Hall of General in the distance were also shocked and frantically retreated. Boom! The huge shockwave rushed to the ground, blasting a deep hole in the ground. Kill! Kill! 2 loud roars sounded as the 2 figures collided again. Far away, the people of the 2 sides looked on in shock. They saw 2 figures emitting scorching auras colliding in the air and on the ground, like 2 ancient beasts. Boom! Boom! After more than 10 collisions, more than 10 large holes appeared on the ground. It was as if doomsday had arrived. Fortunately, they had been some distance away from the blood ant nest before the battle. Otherwise, the blood ant nest would have collapsed. Even so, the blood ant nest was still disturbed and many blood ants crawled out. Boom! Another violent explosion rang out, and a figure rapidly retreated, being sent flying. It was Yang Zitian. At this moment, he was in a very sorry state. His body was covered in blood and his hair was disheveled. He was no match for Lu Ming. Tianyun, I want you dead. I want to kill you. I want to kill your friends and your family. Chapter 232. Yang Zitian roared crazily, his killing intent seeping out. He was actually injured by Lu Ming, who came from the Star General Hall and was regarded by others as a motley crew. He couldn't accept such a great humiliation. Overflowing heavenly sword! Yang Zitian roared, his aura reaching its peak. A ray of sword light, as if it came from the heavens, appeared out of nowhere. It was incomparably brilliant, floating above Yang Zitian's head. A terrifying boundless sword chi rippled out. The ground under Yang Zitian's feet was stirred up by the sword chi, undulating like water waves. Earth-class sword art. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that this was an Earth-class sword art. Earth-class sword art, overflowing heavenly sword. Senior brother Yang Zitian actually mastered the overflowing heavenly sword. What? This is an Earth-class sword art, too terrifying. Tianyun is finished. Once the Earth-class sword art is used, he's dead for sure. Senior brother Yang Zitian is too powerful. This is an Earth-class sword art. The 10 Direction Sword Sect's disciples discussed excitedly. Some even laughed. They felt that Lu Ming was dead for sure. They could finally vent their anger. As for the Star General Hall's disciples, their faces were filled with shock and dismay. The 10 Direction Sword Sect's disciples were too strong. They couldn't compete with them at all. The number one genius of the outer hall of the Star General Hall had just comprehended force. Compared to Yang Zitian, the difference was too great. Brother Tianyun! Myongcheng stared ahead, his eyes filled with worry. Tianyun, now do you know the difference between us? Tremble in front of me! Ha! Yang Zitian laughed crazily. In his mind, Lu Ming would definitely be shocked when he saw him execute the Earth-class sword art, then shock, fear, and finally despair. Thinking of this, he felt very good. Unfortunately, he was only halfway through his enjoyment when he could no longer enjoy himself. Because Lu Ming's expression was calm, indifferent, and even a little disdainful. Yes, disdain. Yang Zitian's anger soared to the sky. His face began to distort as he roared. Tianyun, what's with your expression? What's with your expression? Hee hee. Lu Ming smiled faintly, but the murderous intent in his eyes grew thicker and thicker. Ah, go to hell! Sword of heaven, kill! Yang Zitian roared. With a wave of his sword, the sword light floating above his head violently slashed towards Lu Ming. Before the sword arrived, the terrifying sword intent had already enveloped Lu Ming. Earth-grade martial skills, do you think you are the only one who knows them? Lu Ming whispered. True Chi burst out, and with one hand facing the sky, he waved his palm. Human Dao palm! 1. The space seemed to tremble for a moment. Then, a huge palm print appeared in the air. The palm print was at least 10 meters in size. Its shape was no different from a human palm, except that it was slightly blurry. However, the strength of its might was extremely shocking. It was as if there was a human Tao King patrolling the sky. An extremely powerful pressure pressed down on everyone. Earth-grade martial skill, another Earth-grade martial skill? How is this possible? How is this possible? The disciples of the Shifang Sword faction roared. They could not believe that all this was real. They wished that they were dreaming. Ha ha ha, Tianyun, I knew it. This guy is simply a freak. Myongcheng laughed. How is this possible? How can you also cultivate an Earth-grade martial skill? Ah, break! Yang Zitian roared in disbelief. He controlled the sword light and slashed at the human Dao palm. Boom! The palm print and the sword light collided. Heaven and earth shook violently. Then, there was a sudden explosion where the palm print and the sword light met. Rumble! The earth shook. Under the intersection of the palm print and the sword light, a huge pit that was 100 meters in length and width and more than 20 meters in depth was blasted open. Countless gravel splattered everywhere. Retreat, be careful. The people of the Shifang Sword faction and Star General Hall were in chaos. They quickly retreated and waved their weapons to block. They retreated for 1,000 meters before stopping. Bang! In the sky, the palm print shone brightly while the sword light dimmed rapidly. In the end, the sword light exploded. A figure screamed and flew back like a cannonball. He crashed heavily on the ground, creating a huge pit. It was Yang Zitian. He had been defeated and was lying in the huge pit, coughing up blood. Hiss! The sound of people sucking in a breath of cold air could be heard. Lu Ming walked in the air. His black hair fluttered in the wind. His aura was demonic and his body emitted a cold, murderous intent. Tianyan, what are you trying to do? Don't mess around. Feeling the murderous intent from Lu Ming, Yang Zitian shouted in horror. I hate it when people threaten me with my family. Since you did that, your ending is already decided. Lu Ming said in a cold voice. He walked towards Yang Zitian step by step. Don't you dare. I'm a peerless genius of the Shifang Sword faction. I'll be the pillar of the Shifang Sword faction in the future. I'm someone who can become an overlord. If you kill me, the experts of the Shifang Sword faction won't let you go. Yang Zitian struggled with all his might and roared. That's my business. Why do you have to worry about it? Lu Ming was unmoved. His murderous intent became even colder. Yang Zitian was scared. He was really scared. He could see that Lu Ming really wanted to kill him. No, you can't kill me. You're a lunatic. You're a lunatic. Yang Zitian shouted and rushed out of the pit, trying to escape. Human Dao! Lu Ming said softly and waved his palm. In the sky, a huge palm print was formed and blasted towards Yang Zitian. No! Yang Zitian roared. He frantically tried to resist, but it was to no avail. Boom! The palm print blasted down and directly blasted Yang Zitian into the ground. There was another big pit on the ground. The palm print dissipated, leaving only a pile of meat paste in the big pit. Yang Zitian was smashed into pieces by the palm. Yang Zitian is dead. He's been killed. The disciples of the Shifang Sword faction widened their eyes in shock and stared at him. After a while, someone reacted and shouted, Go quickly. This Tianyun is a lunatic. Swish. Lu Ming's figure was like the wind. He stepped on the void and appeared above everyone's head in a few steps. Who dares to run? Yang Zitian will be the one who ends up. Lu Ming's cold voice spread throughout the place. The disciples of the Shifang Sword faction couldn't help but stop and look at Lu Ming in fear. Could it be that Lu Ming wanted to kill them too? Tianyan, what are you trying to do? If you kill so many of us, the higher-ups of the Shifang Sword faction will definitely go crazy and do their best to kill you. At that time, no one will be able to save you. Someone from the Shifang Sword faction shouted. Who said I'm going to kill you? I just want to rob you. All right, now, hand over your storage rings. Lu Ming said indifferently. What? Rob? The people of the Shifang Sword faction were stunned. Why? If you don't want to hand them over, I don't mind killing you. Lu Ming's eyes were full of killing intent. The expressions of the people of the Shifang Sword faction changed drastically. I'll hand them over. Chapter 233. What a joke! Lu Ming was simply a lunatic. He even dared to kill Yang Zitian, let alone them. If they were killed because of this, it would not be worth it. Someone took off his storage ring and threw it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand and put it away with his true energy. Since someone took the lead, the others could only take off their storage rings and hand them to Lu Ming. However, there were also some who were reluctant to do so. They gritted their teeth and almost cried. This storage ring could be said to contain all the wealth he had accumulated. Who would be willing to hand it over like this? However, when Lu Ming looked at them, they were shocked. They gritted their teeth and took off their storage rings and handed them to Lu Ming with trembling hands. 185, 186. Lu Ming kept counting as he took the rings. He was so happy that he could barely open his eyes. The disciples of the Decimo Sword sect were crying and gritting their teeth so hard that their teeth were about to break. The people of the Star General Hall were dumbfounded by this scene. Soon, when the last disciple of the Decimo Sword sect handed the storage ring to Lu Ming put it away with satisfaction. "All right, you can get lost now. This blood and nest is mine. I'll kill anyone who doesn't get lost," Lu Ming said coldly. The disciples of the Decimo Sword sect turned and ran as if they had been pardoned. In the blink of an eye, there was no one left. In the distance, countless disciples of the Decimo Sword sect shouted, "Quick, let's find a place to heal and then kill the blood ants. Otherwise, we'll lose everything. Damn it, my storage ring. Tianyun, damn Tianyun. I'll kill him when we get out of the blood ant's secret realm." Many disciples of the Decimo Sword sect ran off into the distance, filled with resentment. They made use of the time to treat their injuries and hunt down the blood ants. At this moment, Lu Ming looked at the people of the Star General Hall. "Brother Myongcheng, why don't you explore the blood ant nest with me?" Lu Ming said with a smile. "I couldn't ask for more." Myongcheng was delighted. "As for the rest of you, scram immediately." Subsequently, Lu Ming looked at the other Star General Hall students. These people were not good people. Just now, they just wanted to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. "Tianyun, we're both from the Star General Hall, you can't be so overbearing, right? One person monopolizes the entire blood ant nest," a Star General Hall student said with an ugly expression. "Nonsense, so what if I'm that overbearing? If you're not convinced, let's exchange 2 moves," Lu Ming berated. The young man was stunned. What a joke, exchanging a few moves with Lu Ming, wasn't that courting death? "Let's go!" The others had no choice but to turn around and leave. Soon, only Lu Ming and Myongcheng were left in this place. "Brother Ming, let's go!" Lu Ming turned around and strode forward. When they arrived at the edge of the blood ant's nest, they realized that there were hundreds of blood ants crawling around. Obviously, the battle earlier was too shocking and had completely alarmed the blood ants. When Lu Ming and Myongcheng walked over, the blood ants let out strange cries and pounced on the two of them. However, the highest level of these blood ants was only Class 3 LV6. How could they be a match for Lu Ming? Soon, the ground was littered with blood ant corpses. Then, the two of them charged into the blood ant nest. In the blood ant nest, the tunnels were intertwined and extended in all directions. The two of them did not need to identify the direction and charged forward casually. They killed as long as they saw blood ants. An hour later, Lu Ming had killed more than 200 blood ants and harvested more than 1,000 blood ant eggs. On the other hand, Ming Cheng's harvest was not small either. He had about 200 of them. The two of them went around in circles and did not know how far they had gone. Suddenly, their eyes widened and a huge underground cave appeared in front of them. Once they arrived at the cave, the two of them were stunned. Blood ant eggs. A large number of blood ant eggs were piled up in the cave. Each of them was red and translucent, like garbage piled up in the cave. These were all shed by the blood ants. The blood ant eggs were not the eggs of the blood ants. They were energy crystals that contained powerful blood essence. How many blood ant eggs are there? Myongcheng was dumbfounded. What? There are at least tens of thousands of them? Lu Ming was also in a daze. Their eyes flashed with a blazing light. Squeak, squeak, squeak. At this moment, a sharp cry was heard. The two of them then realized that there was a huge creature in the middle of the cave. It was a gigantic blood ant. It was at least 10 meters tall as it lay there. Its abdomen was huge and there were strings of blood and eggs hanging from it. At a glance, there were at least a few hundred of them. Mother ant. This was the mother ant of the blood ant. The two of them were attracted by the countless blood ant eggs and almost forgot about the mother ant's existence. The mother ant's huge eyes stared at the two of them and let out a sharp cry. Swoosh! At the side of the cave, there was a violent sound of something breaking through the air. A strong and sharp force attacked Lu Ming. It was a blood ant, but it was as huge as a water buffalo. Its body was fiery red and translucent like red jade. Without any hesitation, Lu Ming raised his spear and swept it across. Boom! With a loud bang, the blood ant was repelled. However, Lu Ming felt his body go numb, and he took a few steps back. What a powerful ability! This is a Class 9 LV3 blood ant! Lu Ming was slightly surprised. Whoosh! At this moment, another blood ant rushed out from another cave on the other side of the cave. This blood ant was not smaller than the previous one, and it emitted a powerful aura. Brother Ming, you should leave first, Lu Ming said. Okay. Myongcheng nodded without hesitation, then turned around and ran toward the passage behind him. Facing a Class 9 LV3 blood ant, he knew that he had no power to fight back. If he stayed, he would only be a burden to Lu Ming. Now, let's have a good fight. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. The demon-banishing spear trembled and let out a buzzing sound. He rushed out and attacked the blood ant. Boom! The demon-banishing spear blasted out with the power of wind and fire. Bam! The long spear and the blood ant's claws collided. There was a violent explosion and a loud rumbling sound in the cave. After the first blood ant was repelled, the next one rushed forward. Two Class 9 LV3 blood ants joined forces and attacked Lu Ming crazily. Lu Ming raised his cultivation to the maximum and used the power of wind and fire to fight against the two blood ants. Squeak, 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 the mother ant shrieked. Dragging its huge body, it dashed toward Lu Ming. Its long and sharp claws were like knives, slashing toward Lu Ming. Its power was shocking. It was not inferior to that of the two blood ants. Obviously, the mother ant also had the combat strength of a Class 9 LV3. Three Class 9 LV3 blood ants attacked Lu Ming at the same time, which made Lu Ming feel great pressure. Ancient shield! With a thought, 3 ancient shields appeared around Lu Ming's body. After cultivating for 2 months in the Divine Wind Valley, the ancient shield technique had broken through to the 3rd level and could condense 3 ancient shields. Clang! Chapter 234. The 3 ancient shields could be controlled at will, blocking Lu Ming's entire body. With the ancient shields protecting his body, Lu Ming was in an invincible position. Kill! Lu Ming shouted. He stared at one of the blood ants and launched a torrential attack on it. Myongcheng, who was running in the blood ant nest, smiled bitterly when he heard the deafening roar behind him. Brother Tianyun is really monstrous. I have to get out quickly. Otherwise, this blood ant nest will collapse. Myongcheng ran with all his might. In the blood ant nest, Lu Ming became more and more courageous as he fought. He did not have to worry about himself at all. He attacked with all his might and suppressed the blood ant. Poochie! The demon-suppressing spear pierced the blood ant's hard shell and blasted a big hole. What a hard shell! Lu Ming sighed inwardly. If he did not attack with the power of wind and fire, he would not be able to break through the blood ant's defense. Martial artists below the 9th realm of the Martial Grandmaster realm would not be able to break through the blood ant's defense. It was no wonder that so many blood ant eggs had been piled up in the blood ant nest for so many years without being taken away. Those who entered were all martial artists below the 7th realm of the Martial Grandmaster realm. Who could be a match for these blood ants? Even a genius like Yang Zitian, who had broken through to the 7th realm of the Martial Grandmaster realm, would not be a match for these blood ants. At most, he would be able to plunder some, and then escape. Whoosh! Lu Ming stabbed his spear again. It pierced through the blood ant's wound and went all the way to the hilt. The blood ant screamed and struggled frantically. Die! Lu Ming's spear shook and powerful true energy burst out. It rushed into the blood ant's body and smashed its organs into pieces. Finally, he killed the blood ant. Without any delay, Lu Ming killed another one. A few minutes later, bang! As the last mother ant fell to the ground, the 3 powerful blood ants were all killed by Lu Ming. Collect! Subsequently, Lu Ming began to plunder without restraint. Rays of light enveloped the blood ant eggs in the cave as he collected them into his storage ring. Lu Ming didn't count them, so he didn't know how many he had collected. 2 minutes later, all the blood ant eggs in the cave had been collected. Ha, we're rich! Lu Ming couldn't help but grin. Then, he controlled his bloodline and devoured the blood essence of the 3 blood ants. With a thought, Lu Ming appeared in the Temple of Paragon and started to refine the essence blood. This refinement took more than a day. The essence blood of the 3 blood ants was completely refined. Lu Ming's cultivation skyrocketed from the 5th level of the Martial Master Realm to the early 6th level of the Martial Master Realm. The amount of energy required to cultivate now is indeed much more terrifying. Lu Ming shook his head and smiled. This was the essence blood of 3 Class 9 blood ants, which was 4 levels higher than Lu Ming's. Moreover, the essence blood and blood chi of the blood ants were twice as rich as that of ordinary demonic beasts. 3 Class 9 blood ants were only enough to raise Lu Ming's cultivation by 1 level. This showed that the amount of energy required by Lu Ming was terrifying. Now that I'm in the 6th level of the Martial Master Realm, I'll need at least 20 Class 9 blood ants to level up. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Moreover, his bloodline had yet to level up. He didn't know how much essence blood he would need to level up to the 7th level. I can't let go of the corpses of the 3 blood ants. Their shells are rare materials for refining weapons. Lu Ming waved his hand and kept the corpses of the 3 blood ants into a storage ring. The secret territory is about to close. Myongcheng must be waiting anxiously outside. Let's go. Lu Ming's figure flashed as he ran outside. Soon, Lu Ming came out of the blood ant's nest. As soon as he came out, he saw Myongcheng anxiously pacing back and forth. Brother Ming! Lu Ming called out. Tianyun, you're finally out? I thought you were beaten by a few ants. Myongcheng let out a long breath and grinned when he saw Lu Ming. How can a few ants do anything to me? Lu Ming smiled and moved his hand. A storage ring appeared. Brother Ming, there are some blood ant eggs inside. I got them from the blood ant's nest. Take them, Lu Ming said. No. You got them with your own strength. How can I take them? Moreover, I've already gained a lot from following you into the blood ant's nest. Myongcheng waved his hand and firmly refused. Lu Ming offered more, but Myongcheng refused to take them. Seeing this, Lu Ming did not insist. He put away the storage ring and went to the exit of the secret territory with Myongcheng. The exit of the secret territory was on the easternmost mountain in the blood and secret territory. Once the 10 days were up, the elders of the imperial family and the Hall of General would work together to open an exit for them. A light gate appeared outside the blood and secret territory. Many figures appeared around the light gate, and they were all looking at it. There were people from the imperial family and also from the Shifang sword faction. However, there were more people than 10 days ago. Moreover, some of them were floating in the air. They were all martial grandmasters. On the imperial family side, Huachi was among them. At the front was the red-haired old man and Akira no Ji. Akira no Ji glanced at the imperial family and sneered. Old Monster Hong, why did you send so many people here? Are you going to settle the score with us when you see all the people from the Hall of General get killed? Do you want to fight with us? I'm just taking precautions. I'm afraid that your Shifang sword faction disciples will be at a disadvantage in the secret territory and die in there. If that happens, you'll be angry and harm the disciples of the Hall of General. The red-haired old man replied with a sneer. Ha! Akira no Ji laughed and said, My Shifang sword faction disciples will be at a disadvantage? Die in there? With your Hall of General? That's impossible. That will never happen. Life is unpredictable. The red-haired old man said. That's impossible. Let me tell you clearly that killing is not prohibited in the blood and secret territory. If my Shifang sword faction disciples really die in there, it's because they're not strong enough. They can't blame anyone. Are you afraid that we'll attack? What a joke! Akira Noji said calmly. That's what you said. Remember it. The red-haired old man snorted. Old red monster, you're so confident. Don't tell me you think that Tianyun can pose a threat to my Shifang Sword faction disciples? Let me tell you, that's impossible. At this moment, that Tianyun has already died in the hands of my Shifang Sword faction elites. Akira Noji sneered. Died in the hands of your Shifang Sword faction disciples? I don't think so, the red-haired old man said. Don't think so? Well then, how about we make a bet? I have a piece of heavenly star mithril here. I heard that you have a Yunluo fruit. I'll use the heavenly star mithril to bet with you on the Yunluo fruit. How about that? Akira Noji said. Many people were shocked when they heard that. What? Heavenly star mithril, Yunluo fruit? Such a big bet? A martial arts grandmaster expert exclaimed. Heavenly star mithril was an extremely precious refining material. It was a top level 4 material and could be used to refine level 4 spiritual weapons. The Yunluo fruit was a level 4 spiritual medicine and could be used to refine level 4 elixirs. Level 4 materials and spiritual medicine belonged to the martial arts grandmaster level and were extremely precious. The heavenly star mithril and the Yunluo fruit were top level 4 items. Chapter 235. The red-haired old man muttered to himself. 100,000 spiritual crystals was an astronomical figure for martial grandmasters or warriors with lower cultivation levels. However, it was much better for Wu Zong's. Martial grandmasters were also known as grandmasters. In the Scorching Sun Empire, they were definitely top-notch experts, and belonged to the upper echelons. Compared to them, martial grandmasters were too far apart. Naturally, their value was not ordinary. However, 100,000 spiritual crystals was not a small amount. Even a Wu Zong would have to think twice. Old Monster Hong, what's wrong? You don't dare to bet? Just say it. Don't be stubborn. Akira Noji sneered. Who says I don't dare to bet? Let's bet. There are so many witnesses here. I hope you won't go back on your word, the red-haired old man said. Ha ha ha, I'm afraid you'll be the one going back on your word. Old Monster Hong, your Yunluo fruit is mine. Akira Noji laughed heartily. He was 100% confident that he could win because Yang Zhaitian was in the Shifang Sword faction. He knew Yang Zhaitian's strength very well. Yang Zhaitian had threatened to kill Tianyun. As long as Tianyun encountered Yang Zhaitian, he would be dead for sure. Everyone waited quietly. After a while, someone's coming out! Someone shouted. Sure enough, the light gate flickered and people came out one after another. Soon, dozens of young men came out. They were all disciples of the Shifang Sword faction. The elders of the Shifang Sword faction, including Akira Noji, looked calm. All of this was within their expectations. However, they did not notice that the disciples of the Shifang Sword faction looked a little gloomy. They continued to pay attention to the light gate. After that, the light gate kept flickering and people kept coming out. Soon, more than 200 people came out. All of them were disciples of the Shifang Sword faction. None of them were from the general hall. The red-haired old man, Hua Qi, and the other elders of the imperial family looked more and more gloomy. How is this possible? Why hasn't anyone come out yet? Hua Qi clenched his fists, his eyes filled with worry. Ha ha ha, old Monster Hong, I think your Star General Hall is most likely going to be completely annihilated. You've lost for sure. Quickly hand over the Yunluo fruit. Akira Noji laughed heartily. You! The red-haired old man's face turned ugly. He gritted his teeth and said, Akira Noji, don't be too proud. It's not time yet. No one knows the result until the very last moment. Haha, old Monster Hong, you really know how to deceive yourself. All right, let's wait and see. Akira Noji sneered. Elder Chiu Wei. At this time, A disciple of the Shifang sword faction wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by Akira no Ji. Akira no Ji waved his hand and said domineeringly, "Alright, you guys did well this time. Thank you for your hard work, but not everyone is here yet. We'll talk about the blood and eggs later." The young man still wanted to say something, but Akira no Ji's face darkened. He swallowed his words when he glared at him. At this time, the light gate shone again, and more than 20 young men appeared. These 20 young men were all from the Star General Hall. The red-haired old man and the others were overjoyed. "Humph, you're just lucky. I don't know where you hid, but who knows how many blood and eggs you've obtained. Don't even think that one blood-refining pill is enough to refine them." Akira no Ji sneered. The red-haired old man and the others were silent. They did not have much hope in their hearts. As time passed, more and more people came out. They were all disciples of the Shifang sword faction. In the end, about 280 people came out from the Shifang sword faction. This made the faces of Akira no Ji and the others from the Shifang sword faction turn ugly. The time was almost up, and the light gate was about to close. Once the light gate closed, they could not open it again. They could only wait for 3 years before they could open it again. But at this time, there were still so many people from the Shifang sword faction who had not come out. More importantly, 2 of the 6 geniuses who had comprehended force did not come out. One of them was Yang Zitian. He must have been delayed by the blood and nest. Akira no Ji comforted himself. Lu Ming. Hua Qi's eyes widened as he stared at the light gate. Lu Ming had not come out yet, and he was afraid that something might have happened. Time passed slowly, and the time for the light gate to close was getting closer and closer. However, no one came out. What's going on? What's going on? Akira no Ji was a little anxious. The others were fine, but Yang Zitian had not come out yet. How could it be? Buzz! At this time, the light gate flashed slightly, and 2 figures appeared. Akira no Ji, the red-haired old man, and the other elders of the 2 factions stared intently. The 2 figures' silhouettes slowly became clearer. Tianyun? How is that possible? Akira no Ji roared in disbelief. Tianyun, it's Tianyun. The red-haired old man's eyes widened. Then, he was overjoyed and laughed loudly. The 2 people who came out later were naturally Lu Ming and Miangcheng. Damn it, Tianyun must have found a place to hide. He didn't encounter Yang Zitian and the other disciples. Damn it! Akira no Ji roared in his heart. Haha, Akira no Ji, Tianyun is still alive. You lost. Hand over the heavenly star mystic silver. Don't go back on your word, the red-haired old man said. Akira no Ji's expression was ugly. He was reluctant to do so, but he couldn't go back on his word in front of everyone. It's all Tianyun's fault. Why didn't he die? He roared in his heart, and blamed everything on Lu Ming. However, he had no choice. He gritted his teeth and took out a fist-sized piece of metal that was shining with silver light and gave it to the red-haired old man. This was the heavenly star mystic silver. The other martial ancestor realm experts looked at the red-haired old man with envy. Haha, I won't stand on ceremony then. The red-haired old man laughed, and kept it. Then, he looked at Lu Ming. The more he looked at Lu Ming, the more he liked him. Why hasn't Yang Zitian come out yet? Akira no Ji stared at the light door with a gloomy face. Bam! Suddenly, the light door shook violently. Then, it exploded with a bang and turned into specks of light that dissipated. How could this be? Where's Yang Zitian? Why hasn't he come out? Akira no Ji roared. What happened? Why hasn't Yang Zitian come out? And why are there so many disciples? What happened? The other elders of the Shifang sword sect also roared in anger. Senior brother Yang Zitian is dead! Suddenly, a disciple of the Shifang sword sect shouted. Everyone fell silent. Akira no Ji stared at the disciple with an ugly face and shouted. What did you say? Yang Zitian is dead? How could he be dead? Who in the blood and secret realm can kill him? Even when facing the mother ant, he could escape unscathed. How could he be dead? Akira no Ji roared in anger. An extremely powerful aura erupted from his body as he stared at the disciple. He's really dead. Most of the senior and junior brothers here saw it. The disciple shouted. Yes, elder. Yang Zitian is really dead. The other disciples nodded in agreement. Akira no Ji's face was ashen. He stared at the disciple and shouted. Why didn't you say so earlier? Elder Chio, I wanted to say it just now, but you didn't let me. The disciple felt wronged. You. Chapter 236. Just now, this disciple did want to say something but was stopped by him, causing the other disciples to keep quiet. But just now, he was in high spirits, and wanted to give the red-haired old man a good beating. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that Yang Zitian would die in the blood ant's secret realm. Now that he thought about it, he felt utterly humiliated. Speak, how did Yang Zitian die? Akira no Ji gritted his teeth and asked. It's him, Tianyun. Senior brother Yang Zitian was killed by Tianyun. The disciple pointed at Lu Ming and shouted. What? Everyone was shocked. Except for those who had entered the blood ant's secret realm, everyone looked at Lu Ming. Yang Zitian was killed by Tianyun? How was this possible? Was Tianyun that powerful? Even the red-haired old man, Hua Qi, and the others were shocked. Damn it! A cold murderous intent burst out from Akira no Ji's body. He suddenly turned around and looked at Lu Ming coldly, roaring. Tianyun, speak, what despicable means did you use? Did you secretly kill Yang Zitian? Secretly kill? Lu Ming's lips curled up. Do I need to secretly kill Yang Zitian? Nonsense, you didn't secretly kill him? You can kill Yang Zitian? Even 10 of you won't be enough. Akira no Ji shouted angrily, not believing Lu Ming's words at all. Lu Ming sneered and didn't explain. Elder Chio, I have something to say. The 10 Directions Sword Sect disciple spoke again. Shut up! Akira no Ji shouted angrily. That disciple immediately shut up, but his face was flushed red. What do you want to say? Say it now! Chio Wuji shouted angrily as he recalled what had happened before. He was so angry that he took a deep breath. Elder Chio, senior brother Yang Zitian was really killed by Tianyun. Senior brother Yang Zitian was no match for Tianyun and was killed by Tianyun, the young man said. How is that possible? Did you look carefully? Chio Wuji asked loudly. It's not just me. Most of the senior and junior brothers are here, the young man said. Although the other disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect had ugly expressions, they all nodded in agreement. How could this be? Chio Wuji and the others were still in disbelief. A motley crew from the Star General Hall was able to kill a peerless genius of the 10 Directions Sword Sect. This had never happened before. Elder Chio, you have to seek justice for us. This Tianyun is simply a madman, a beast. Not only did he kill senior brother Yang Zitian, but he also snatched our storage rings. All of our storage rings were taken away by him. All of our wealth and the blood ant eggs that we obtained from hunting blood ants were also taken away by him. A disciple of the 10 Directions Sword Sect screamed. Ah? What? What? Chio Wuji and all the elders of the 10 Directions Sword Sect were stunned. Their mouths were wide open as they stood there in a daze. The red-haired old man, Hua Qi, and the other members of the imperial family were not much different. Their eyes were wide open as they looked at Lu Ming in a daze. Damn it, you little bastard, I'll kill you! After a long while, Chio Wuji finally reacted. His hair stood on end and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. With a furious roar, a violent wave of true chi blasted towards Lu Ming. Not good! Lu Ming was already prepared. He pulled Myungchang and instantly moved dozens of meters away, rushing towards the red-haired old man and the others. Chio Wuji, what are you doing? The red-haired old man roared and rushed out, throwing out a punch. Boom! Heaven and earth shook. The red-haired old man and Chio Wuji exchanged blows, and the earth almost cracked open. Get lost. Today, I must kill that little bastard Tianyun. Qiu Wuji glared fiercely at Lu Ming and bellowed furiously. Ha! At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly laughed. Little bastard, what are you laughing at? Qiu Wuji scolded. Old man, do you really think that the Decimo Sword Sect is the ruler of the Blazing Sun Empire? I'm a member of the royal family. You want to kill me for no reason? Are you looking down on the 4 major sects and the royal family? Lu Ming shouted, using the 4 major sects and the royal family to suppress him. For no reason? You killed the disciples of my Decimo Sword Sect and even snatched their storage rings. Don't you deserve to die? Qiu Wuji roared. Haha, what a joke. Let me ask you, is killing and plundering not prohibited in the Blood and Secret Realm? Lu Ming questioned loudly. Qiu Wuji froze and his face turned gloomy. He couldn't answer this question. Since killing and plundering are not prohibited, then it's normal for me to kill your disciples and snatch their storage rings. What right do you have to kill me? Moreover, before entering the Blood and Secret Realm, all the disciples of your Decimo Sword Sect said that they wanted to kill me. I resisted and killed them back. Isn't that right? Lu Ming's eyes were bright as he faced Qiu Wuji without fear and questioned loudly. Qiu Wuji's face turned ugly, and the other disciples of the Decimo Sword Sect didn't say anything. Lu Ming was right. Nothing was prohibited in the Blood and Secret Realm. Killing and plundering were the main themes of the Blood and Secret Realm. What a sharp-tongued little thing. So what? Let me tell you, even if the disciples of my Decimo Sword Sect want to kill you, you have to let them kill you. You can't resist or you'll die. Qiu Wuji said coldly. He was overbearing and unreasonable. Lu Ming sneered and didn't bother to say anything. This old man was simply shameless to the extreme. Qiu Wuji, you're really shameless. Only 20 or so people of my Star General Hall came out. The rest were killed by your Decimo Sword Sect. In the past, according to what you said, you're allowed to kill my disciples and I'll kill you instead. What kind of bullshit logic is that? Fine, then from now on, your Decimo Sword Sect can go back to the Decimo Mountain. The Blood and Secret Realm will be mined by my Decimo Sword Sect alone. The red-haired old man roared. You're dreaming if you want to mine alone. It's better if it's the other way around. An old man of the Decimo Sword Sect sneered. Old red monster, get out of my way. I must kill Tianyun today. Otherwise, I'll kill all of you as well. At that time, my Decimo Sword Sect's army and the imperial family will be destroyed. Qiu Wuji said coldly and overbearingly. How dare you? Huaqi shouted. Qiu Wuji actually said that he wanted to destroy the imperial family. Qiu Wuji, your Decimo Sword Sect is ambitious and should be punished by the world. The red-haired old man roared. Qiu Wuji's face was extremely ugly. He couldn't help but regret saying those words out of desperation. Even if the Decimo Sword Sect had such ambitions, they couldn't say it out loud. Or rather, it wasn't the time to say such words. Qiu Wuji, come, let's fight. Today, we'll fight to the death. The red-haired old man strode forward like a lion. His hair and beard were fluttering. He was obviously furious. Today, this prince will protect Tianyun. Whoever wants to kill him will have to kill me first. Chapter 237. Huaqi stepped forward in a domineering manner. A few martial ancestor realm elders from the imperial family followed closely behind Huaqi, their bodies emitting powerful auras. Damn it, you're courting death! Akira no-ji roared in his heart, but he did not make a move in the end. Right now, the Shifang Sword Sect hadn't reached the point of falling out with the imperial family. Huaqi was a real prince, the 8th son of the current emperor. If they killed Huaqi as well, it would be tantamount to starting a war with the imperial family. At that time, the 4 major sects would join forces to attack the Shifang Sword Sect. The Shifang Sword Sect wouldn't be able to withstand it. Moreover, there were many experts from the imperial family this time. Even if he wanted to make a move, he was not confident. Good, very good. Eighth Prince, you're determined to go against the Decimo's sword faction. I hope you won't regret it. Also, do you think you can protect Tianyun by doing this? Naive, let's wait and see. Akira no-ji roared. He waved his hand and left with the disciples of the Decimo's sword faction. The disciples of the Decimo's sword faction had a gloomy expression on their faces. They had suffered a complete defeat in this trip to the Blood Ant's secret realm. Although they had killed a large number of disciples from the Star General Hall, they were just a mob in their eyes. On the other hand, the Decimo's sword faction had lost 60 to 70 disciples, especially Yang Zitian, who had been killed. Moreover, most of the storage rings of the disciples of the Decimo's sword faction had been taken by Lu Ming. Most of the blood and eggs had fallen into Lu Ming's hands. They had lost almost all their face. Ha! The red-haired elder laughed heartily. Tianyun, thank you, Elder Hong. Thank you, Eighth Prince. Lu Ming stepped forward and thanked the red-haired elder, and Hua Qi with cupped fists. Tianyun, there's no need to be so courteous. Hua Qi helped Lu Ming up. Tianyun, I should be thanking you. Not only did you help me win a piece of Heavenly Star Mithril, but you also suppressed the arrogance of the Decimo's sword faction. It's really satisfying. The red-haired elder laughed. They wanted to kill me, I was only retaliating. Lu Ming smiled. Haha, let's go back to the Star General Hall. The red-haired old man laughed and waved his hand. Immediately, the group returned to the Star General Hall. Count your gains first. Come here tomorrow morning to count the number of blood and eggs. In a large hall of the General Hall, the red-haired old man instructed. Everyone nodded their heads and dispersed. When Lu Ming returned to his dorm, he hurriedly entered the Supreme Divine Palace. He couldn't wait to see what he had gained. In front of him was a pile of storage rings. There were close to 300 of them, all of which belonged to the disciples of the Decimo's sword sect. Lu Ming began to take inventory. He placed one blood ant egg and one spiritual crystal. The other things were also sorted and put away. There were simply too many items. It took Lu Ming a total of 6 hours to do an inventory check. Looking at the things in front of him, Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Then, he was overjoyed. The harvest was simply too great. The blood ant eggs were obtained by the disciples of the Decimo's sword sect. Including the ones he obtained from the blood ant nest, there were more than 23,000 of them. Among them, there were more than 13,000 in the blood ant nest. The 300 disciples of the Decimo's sword sect contributed about 10,000 of them. 23,000 eggs was a huge number. In history, no one had ever obtained so many blood ant eggs. 6 blood ant eggs could be exchanged for 1 blood refinement pill. 23,000 blood ant eggs could be exchanged for 3,800 blood refinement pills. More than 3,800 blood refinement pills! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The more he accumulated before the second bloodline awakening, the better. Lu Ming put away all the blood ant eggs in a storage ring. Then, he looked at the pile of spiritual crystals. There were a total of 620,000 spiritual crystals. Lu Ming almost drooled. Including the spiritual crystals he had before, he had more than 700,000 spiritual crystals. Robbing is still the best! Lu Ming exclaimed. Of course, this was just a thought. He would not rob for no reason. In addition to the blood ant eggs and spiritual crystals, there were other things, such as various spiritual herbs, spiritual weapons, and all kinds of refining materials. However, most of them were not of high grades. A few were of level 3, while most were of level 2 and level 1. But there were so many of them, their value was shocking. Not to mention the other things, the hundreds of storage rings were worth a lot. Lu Ming planned to find a chance to clean up these miscellaneous things. After putting everything away, Lu Ming began to cultivate with satisfaction. The next day, Lu Ming went to the main hall. He found that the red-haired elder and Hua Qi were there. Tianyun! Hua Qi greeted Lu Ming with a smile. Lu Ming also smiled. In addition to them, there were a few elders from the imperial family. Soon, more than 20 students who participated in the Blood Ant secret realm arrived. Okay, now take out the blood ant eggs that you obtained from the blood ant secret realm and give them to the elders of the imperial family to refine blood refinement pills. Under normal circumstances, 3 blood ant eggs can be used to refine 1 blood refinement pill. According to the rules, you can exchange 6 blood ant eggs for 1 blood refinement pill. The red-haired elder explained the rules again. Everyone nodded. Then, a young man stepped forward and took out a storage ring. The storage ring lit up, and immediately, numerous red and translucent blood ant eggs appeared on the table. An elder began to count. There are 62 blood ant eggs in total. 60 of them can be exchanged for 10 blood refinement pills. The imperial family will buy the remaining 2 blood ant eggs at 300 spiritual crystals per egg. Are you willing? The imperial family elder asked. I am willing, the young man said. If one did not know how to refine blood refinement pills, it was useless to keep the blood ant eggs. It was better to sell them. 300 spiritual crystals per egg? On the side, Lu Ming gasped, and his eyes were burning. He wanted to sell all the blood ant eggs. How many spiritual crystals could he get? Of course, it was just a thought. No amount of spiritual crystals was more important than blood refinement pills. Even if one had spiritual crystals, they would not be able to buy blood refinement pills in the market. Then, they counted them one by one. Most of the Star General Hall students did not obtain many blood ant eggs. They only obtained about 100 blood ant eggs. The most they obtained was slightly more than 200. However, Myongcheng surprised everyone. He obtained more than 360 blood ant eggs and was temporarily ranked first. Myongcheng grinned. He was able to obtain so many thanks to Lu Ming. He followed Lu Ming to hunt blood ants in the blood ant nest and obtained more than 200 blood ant eggs. Including his own, he had more than 360 blood ant eggs. Now, Tianyun, the red-haired elder said. Whoosh! Whoosh! Everyone's gazes were focused on Lu Ming, looking forward to it. Lu Ming had robbed most of the Decimo Sword faction disciples' storage rings. How many blood ant eggs could he obtain? Everyone was very curious. Isn't this table too small? I don't think it can fit all of them. Lu Ming looked at the table and smiled bitterly. Ah? Chapter 238. The table was not big enough. This was the first time they had heard of such a reason. Bring the table over! The red-haired old man roared with excitement written all over his face. The others immediately brought over a few tables and placed them together, occupying more than half of the hall. Lu Ming nodded slightly and took out a storage ring. Everyone stared intently at it. The storage ring glowed, and a small mountain appeared on the table. It was a small mountain of blood and eggs. Everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. So many? How many can there be? A student from the Star General Hall stuttered, almost biting his own tongue. Oh my God, isn't this too much? Could it be that Tianyun emptied the entire blood ant nest? Another young man shouted. Start counting! The elders of the imperial family came to their senses and started counting excitedly. Not long after, the number was announced. 23,153. One of the elders reported the number with a trembling voice. Hiss, gasps could be heard in the hall. Although they had expected it, they were still shocked by the number. Everyone stared at Lu Ming, dumbfounded. How many blood refining pills could he exchange for with so many blood ant eggs? 23,153 eggs can be exchanged for 3,858 eggs. There are also 5 extra blood ant eggs in exchange for spirit crystals, the elder announced, but before he could finish, he was interrupted by Hua Qi. Wait a minute. Tianyun obtained such a large number of blood ant eggs. There is no need to count so seriously. I will make the decision. Tianyun's blood ant eggs can be exchanged for 4,000 blood refining pills. Make it a round number, Hua Qi announced. Yes, 8th Prince. The elder noted it down. Thank you, 8th Prince. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Lu Ming would not reject the offer of more than 100 blood refining pills. Then, the royal family elder put away all of the blood ant eggs. Of course, he didn't have any blood refining pills right now. He had to wait until all the blood ant eggs were refined into blood refining pills before he could give them to Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming wasn't afraid that the royal family would swallow his blood ant egg. Not to mention his relationship with Hua Qi, even without this layer of relationship, the royal family wouldn't do so. Given the current situation of the royal family, they urgently needed the assistance of talents. If the royal family were to swallow the eggs of these blood ants, they would be short-sighted and digging their own grave. Therefore, Lu Ming was very relieved. Lu Ming, this time, you have completely offended the Shifang sword sect and caused them to lose face. They will not let you off. After some time, the Shifang sword sect will definitely send more powerful geniuses to look for you. You must be careful. Before leaving, Hua Qi reminded Lu Ming in a low voice. Don't worry. Do you think I'm scared? Lu Ming said with a smile. Hua Qi was stunned and then smiled. Ever since he met Lu Ming, he had never seen Lu Ming afraid of anyone. Okay, I'll wait for the good news of you killing everyone, Hua Qi said with a smile and then left. After Hua Qi and the others left, Lu Ming left and returned to the dormitory. I'll go to the Earth Essence Cave to consolidate my cultivation, then buy resources to break through. After returning, Lu Ming pondered for a moment and then walked towards the Earth Essence Cave. This time, he flashed Hua Qi's token and the expert guarding the entrance gave him a pile of inscription stones, allowing him to cultivate for as long as he wanted. Lu Ming was secretly delighted. He took the inscription stones and entered the Earth Essence Cave. He didn't stop and went all the way down. On the third and fourth floor, there were still people sitting cross-legged, trying to snatch other people's cultivation rooms. When Lu Ming passed by, their expressions changed when they saw Lu Ming. Although it was only a day's time, the incident of Lu Ming in the Blood Ant secret realm had already spread throughout the Star General Hall. Many people knew of Tianyan's name. Lu Ming's method shocked everyone. Lu Ming had another nickname, Ruthless. They looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of awe. Lu Ming only glanced at them casually and continued to go down. When he reached the fifth floor, Lu Ming still didn't stop and continued to go down to the sixth floor. The fire attribute spiritual qi on the sixth floor was several times denser than the fifth floor. Lu Ming opened a secret room, walked in, and began to cultivate. Lu Ming's cultivation had skyrocketed after devouring the blood essence of the blood ant. His foundation was a little unstable, so he could use the fire attribute spiritual qi to stabilize his foundation. 10 days later, Lu Ming's foundation was incomparably stable. It was impregnable and flawless. At this moment, Lu Ming walked out of the Earth Essence Cave. Anyway, he could cultivate at any time. Lu Ming didn't care how long he cultivated. After walking out of the Earth Essence Cave, Lu Ming walked out of the Star General Hall and walked towards the largest market in the imperial capital. The market in the imperial capital was incomparably huge and occupied a vast area. Here, there were many shops and merchant associations. There were even many merchant associations that were not native to the Blazing Sun Empire. They came from other empires and brought some of their specialties. There were 36 empires near the Cloud Emperor mountain range. The Blazing Sun Empire was just an inferior empire. Therefore, the market in the imperial capital was filled with people at all times. Lu Ming walked on the streets of the market. There were too many things for his eyes to take in as he looked left and right. Soon, Lu Ming came to a 5-story building that occupied a large area. 100 Treasures Pavilion. The 3 words inlaid in gold were extraordinary. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and walked in. Young master, is there anything I can help you with? As soon as Lu Ming walked into the 100 Treasures Pavilion, a sweet-looking girl came up to him. Now Lu Ming had an extraordinary aura. Although he was wearing ordinary clothes, just by standing there casually, he exuded an extraordinary aura that no one dared to ignore. Naturally, the girl was very attentive. I'm here to buy some demonic beast blood essence. Lu Ming smiled. Buy demonic beast blood essence? The sweet-looking girl was delighted. Demonic beast blood essence was usually used to refine weapons or elixirs. It was very valuable. Those who could buy it were usually big customers. Young master, what grade of demonic beast blood essence are you looking for? The girl suppressed the excitement in her heart and asked. Class 9 LV3 demonic beast blood essence, Lu Ming said. Now, he was looking for Class 9 LV3 demonic beast blood essence. Those below Class 9 LV3 would not be of much help to him. Class 9 LV3? The girl suddenly let out a cry of surprise. Immediately, it attracted the attention of others. The surrounding people all looked over. Lu Ming frowned slightly. Wasn't this girl's reaction a little too big? Why? You don't have it? Lu Ming asked. The girl covered her mouth and looked around. When she heard Lu Ming's words, she hurriedly nodded and said, Yes, young master. Class 9 LV3 demonic beast blood essence is very precious. Young master, please follow me to the guest room. I'll ask the shopkeeper to come over. All right. Lu Ming nodded. It was fine as long as she had it. He followed the girl to a guest room at the back. Naturally, someone had already brewed the best tea. After a while, a chubby shopkeeper came in with a face full of smiles. He cupped his fists and said, Young master, I heard that you're looking for Class 9 LV3 demonic beast blood essence. Chapter 239. Young master, the Class 9 LV3 demonic beast essence blood is expensive. The shopkeeper smiled. Oh? How many spiritual crystals for one? Lu Ming asked. A Class 9 LV3 demonic beast essence blood costs 25,000 spiritual crystals, the shopkeeper replied. Even though Lu Ming was mentally prepared, he still took a deep breath. A Class 9 LV3 demonic beast essence blood costs 25,000 spiritual crystals. That was too terrifying. Young master, the higher the level of the demonic beast essence blood, the harder it is to collect it. Moreover, the cost of storing it is very high. This price is not high, the shopkeeper explained. Lu Ming nodded. He certainly understood this. How many essence blood do you need? The shopkeeper asked. 20 essence blood for now. Lu Ming thought for a while and said, What? 20 essence blood? The shopkeeper exclaimed as the fat on his face trembled. What? You don't have that many? Lu Ming frowned and asked. Yes, absolutely. The shopkeeper shouted excitedly. He knew that he had a big customer today. Normally, inscriptionists would only buy a few essence blood to refine pills or refine equipment. How could they buy so many? Moreover, only inscriptionists above the martial ancestor realm would buy the essence blood of a Class 9 LV3 demonic beast. It was very rare to buy 20 essence blood of a Class 9 LV3 demonic beast in one go. The shopkeeper's heart trembled with excitement. I'll send someone to get it right away. The shopkeeper shouted and then sent someone to get it. Shopkeeper, how much is a Class 9 LV3 monster core? Lu Ming asked. You still want to buy monster cores? The shopkeeper was even more delighted and quickly replied. A Class 9 LV3 monster core is much cheaper than a demonic beast's essence blood because it is convenient to store and contains more impurities than a demonic beast's essence blood. Generally, it is 1/5 of the price of a demonic beast's essence blood of the same level. A Class 9 LV3 monster core costs about 5,000 spiritual crystals. All right, give me 30 monster cores, Lu Ming said without hesitation. All right, please wait for a moment. I'll send someone to deliver it right away. After saying that, the shopkeeper hurriedly got up and walked out. After a while, the shopkeeper walked in with a few young girls carrying a few jade boxes. Young master, here's the blood essence and Yao core you want, the shopkeeper said with a smile. Lu Ming took a look and saw 20 portions of Class 9 LV3 demonic beast blood essence and 30 Class 9 LV3 demonic beast cores. Lu Ming nodded with satisfaction. Then, he took out a storage ring and handed it to the shopkeeper. Shopkeeper, here are 650,000 spirit crystals. Please count them. The shopkeeper took the ring and scanned it with his consciousness. His smile became even brighter as he said, Young master, since you bought so many items at once, we have a discount. This time, we only charge you 600,000 spiritual crystals. Also, this is our store's VIP card. As long as young master comes again, all of your items will be 20% off. The shopkeeper took out a golden VIP card and 50,000 spirit crystals and handed them to Lu Ming. Thank you. Lu Ming was overjoyed and accepted it without hesitation. Lu Ming would not hesitate to accept it since he could save 50,000 spirit crystals. Also, he would get a 20% discount when he came again. Lu Ming was very tempted. With a wave of his hand, he kept the blood essence and Yao Core. At the side, a few beautiful young girls looked at Lu Ming with sparkles in their eyes. He had spent 600,000 spirit crystals in one go. In their hearts, Lu Ming was a high and mighty figure. It would be great if we could get the attention of such a figure. The young girls thought to themselves. However, they knew that it was impossible. How could someone like Lu Ming be interested in them? Shopkeeper, I'll take my leave. Lu Ming cupped his fists and left. Lu Ming did not feel the pinch of spending 600,000 spirit crystals in one go. After all, he had gotten them from the Decimo Sword faction disciples. After returning to the dormitory, Lu Ming entered the Temple of Paragon and could not wait to start cultivating. First, Lu Ming controlled his bloodline and swallowed a Class 9 LV3 demonic beast's blood essence. He then started refining it. This time, Lu Ming did not use it to increase his cultivation. Instead, he used all the energy in the blood essence to increase his bloodline grade. The Yao Core was enough for him to increase his cultivation. 2 hours later, the blood essence was completely refined. There were 6 blood-red chakras in his bloodline. They were extremely dazzling, but the 7th chakra was not born. In addition to the blood essence of the 3 blood ants, Su Emo had swallowed 4 Class 9 LV3 demonic beasts' blood essence. However, his bloodline grade had not increased. This showed how difficult it was to increase his bloodline grade. Then, Lu Ming took out another Class 9 LV3 demonic beast's blood essence and started swallowing it. After swallowing it, he took out another one. Just like that, Su Emo swallowed 15 demonic beasts' blood essences and used them all to increase his bloodline grade. Suddenly, his bloodline trembled and the 7th blood-red chakra was born. When the 7th blood-red chakra was born, the spirit-devouring bloodline that was like a long snake roared to the sky. Its body shone brightly and expanded rapidly. It became thicker and longer. In the end, it turned into a giant python that was about 10 meters long. It floated above Lu Ming's head. It evolved. The spirit-devouring bloodline evolved again. Lu Ming was overjoyed. The spirit-devouring bloodline had evolved once when it was promoted to level 4. At that time, it had evolved from a finger-sized worm to a small snake. Now, it had evolved from a small snake to a giant python. What would it become after the next evolution? Lu Ming was looking forward to it. The giant python roared and opened its mouth. A powerful devouring power burst out. The devouring power was several times stronger than before. Continue to devour! Lu Ming took out another demonic beast's blood essence. But this time, it only took him half an hour to completely refine it. The 7th chakra became brighter. Then, Lu Ming refined the remaining 4 demonic beasts' blood essences in one breath. I wonder how much demonic beast's blood essence I need to increase my bloodline grade to level 8. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. Then, Lu Ming took out a monster core and began to devour and refine it. Monster cores were much more troublesome to refine than blood essence. But now, the devouring power of the spirit-devouring bloodline had greatly increased. It did not take much time to refine it. In 3 hours he had refined 1. Lu Ming's cultivation had improved, but not by much. He continued to refine it. After refining 5, Lu Ming's cultivation had entered the middle stage of level 6 martial master from the early stage of level 6 martial master. The energy needed to improve was much greater than Lu Ming had imagined. Continue! In the next 3 days, Lu Ming had refined a total of 20 monster cores. Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the peak of level 6 martial master. He was only one step away from breaking through to level 7 martial master. But at this point, Lu Ming had refined several monster cores, but it was to no avail. It was difficult for him to break through to level 7 martial master. Lu Ming knew that he had encountered a bottleneck. During this period of time, he had improved too quickly and his cultivation could not keep up. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.